Today's guest is one of my favorite people on God's green earth, and I met said guest through my cousin Rocco when he attended the Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts, ended up working at a clothing store, and that's where he met my guest that I have on the show today. And when he introduced him to me, I was always very fascinated, as he's one of the most cerebral, intelligent human beings that I've ever met, and he's a man who wears many hats. He was a journalist, he taught bilingual special education, he was in public transportation, and now he's currently a lobbyist in New Mexico for the education system. So he's a decorated individual. I truly, truly enjoy having conversations with him, and it was great to catch up with him. I haven't seen him probably since the year 2018. So it was a joyous opportunity to have him on the show. So please today, welcome without further ado, my guy, Clayton Abbey. You're now listening to the Sauce Talk Podcast. What up, everybody? It's your boy Al Siggety Sauce. Welcome back to the Sauce Talk Podcast. Today, I'm super excited. I've wanted to record this episode with my mans for absolutely fucking... It has to have been a decade that I've wanted to record an episode with you, even though I've only been doing this podcast for 3 years. However, I've always wanted to document a conversation with this individual because I look up to him very much. So please welcome my boy, Clayton Abbey. What's up, baby?
What's up, my brother?
How are you?
Well, let's see, about a half of IPA and some jalapeno cocktail. We get
Fresh jalapeno.
Fresh jalapeno. Get it popping, man. It's good to be out here, fucking Jersey.
For real. Bro, it's been years, bro. I haven't hung out with you, like we were talking earlier, since 2017 and 2018. It's been crazy. And ever since I started this podcast, you were one of the first people that came to my mind. I'm like, I need to record with homie because you're just a very interesting, a very decorated individual. And I've always wanted to get you in that seat and just to capture your life story, if you will.
That's funny, man. Like, I don't think of myself in those terms, but that's why I love you too, because you have your esteem for people is something I respect, because you know your shit. That's kind of reputation you have in certain cliques.
No, that means a lot, bro. Especially coming from you, man. You know, there was a certain extent of people that I've always looked up to, and you were definitely one of them. You know, I've always considered you a very intelligent individual, and I just enjoyed your perspective on life as a whole.
Appreciate that, man. I mean, certainly life's been some shit, so I guess I have a perspective to share.
Right.
To bring to the world.
So now I met you, for those listening, watching, however it is that you're enjoying this podcast, is, you know, I met you through my cousin Rocco, somebody who I've always held, you know, pretty high in my book of people that I know and fortunate enough to know. And I really want to get to how you met him, but first, there's a lot of things I want to know about you personally. You know, I didn't know a lot about your life prior to that, let alone your life after that. So, you know, where did you grow up, first of all, and what was childhood in general like, you know, for you as Clayton Abbey?
Yeah, man. So, you know, I'm a proud New Mexican, right? And that's a whole thing right there, because New Mexico it's actually one of the things about, I think a lot how I think New Mexicans and Puerto Ricans have a lot in common. We're kind of like, I mean, I guess Puerto Rico has a little bit more of an identity of their own and a place to call their own, because they're in that strange status. They're a commonwealth, a territory. They're not they're not a state. They're not a country, right? We're a state, right? But what we really are is like New Mexico it used to be Mexico and Spain before that, and before that, tons of different tribes, pueblos that existed. And now we've just been absorbed in the United States, and I think it's kind of the identity is just not there. Like, I tell people I'm New Mexican, it doesn't mean shit, right? But for me, it certainly does. But like, so I grew up in New Mexico. I was born in Los Alamos. Los Alamos, most people know because one, Oppenheimer and shit like that. That's just where they created the
Oh, that's
the
right.
yeah, and it's the Los Alamos National Lab. That's where my parents met. My mother's, Hispana, Chicana, we would say, from New Mexico, and my pops is from the East Coast, a gringo, and he was kind of a hippie, and really, he's always been obsessed with the West. He's like an aspiring cowboy, believe it or not. And I respect it. Like, the West is fascinating, the deserts, the open areas. But he moved to Los Alamos to work at the lab. And I guess my mom, I don't know a lot about my mom, to be honest, but she worked at the lab. They met there. She had been married before, so I have an older brother and sister from a different dad, same mom. But they met, got married. From what I know and what I know about my mother and my dad, like, it was very short-lived. I think, before I was 2 years old, they were already separated, and I had a little sister born. And like, the crazy thing about my siblings is we're all 4 years apart: 77, 79, 81, 83.
Oh, wow.
And so my mom was just pushing them out, which is crazy. But by the time my little sister was born, my parents were already separated. So my pops, again, like, I mean, he just marches to his own drum. I think, while married to my mother, was like, he bought a property in like very rural northern New Mexico, which is, that's a whole shit right there, just rural northern New Mexico. Not necessarily the most friendly to like outsiders, and certainly not white people. But he set up shop there, bought a ranch, and I think the idea was to like move our whole family out there. But probably, my guess is, probably was a source of tension and maybe part of why there was a divorce eventually. So, long story short is, my mom lived in Los Alamos, and there were 4 of us living under one roof until about the age of 8, until my age of 8. And my father lived in this little place called Medinales. Everybody knows Santa Fe is the capital of New Mexico. Uh-huh. It's about 45 minutes north of there. It's rural, right? We lived along a river. My pops had about 11-acre property, like a proper ranch, or it could have been a proper ranch, although we didn't have animals and whatnot. That wasn't his thing. But, that's I basically grew up. I like, there's a lot of funny stories I remember from my childhood. Like, this is, by today's standards, nuts. But like, I remember my pops used to pick us up on weekends. I think he got us like 2 weekends a year. He like, Los Alamos is up a mountain. It's like on a high plane, because it was designed to be like, it was a top secret lab, right? And it's just so in the cut, right? Like, you're up against some mountains, and anyway, he would drive up there, pick us up. He'd buy a 6-pack of Budweisers and like fucking drink the whole time that he was driving us home and shit, bro. Like the way we lived as kids, man. Like, we were from a different era. Like my pops would be like, "Nah, you don't need seatbelts if you're in the back seat." The shit. And they, he was smoking the car and shit. Like, it was just a different era, man. But anyway, so I grew up kind of bouncing between there to about the age of 8. And then, my mom, I don't want to delve too much into it, I don't think, but like, she comes, like, I think, like, the people in New Mexico, Hispanic people, the natives, there's a lot of trauma in New Mexico, bro. Like, we're and again, that's where I see the commonality with Puerto Ricans. She went through her shit, and I don't even know what it is, but I've heard bits and pieces. But she wasn't a good mother. I'll just keep it a buck. Like, she just didn't have the capacity, the faculty to take care of 4 kids. Yeah. And we had some shit go down when I was I was 8, and she lost custody of us. So we moved in with my pops, and we spent about 4 more years living in rural northern New Mexico before I moved to Santa Fe with my pops. He got I don't know if he got a big job at that point, but he was on his way, moving up the ranks in state government. And I think the commute back and forth while being a single dad, because my mom just checked out at that point, he was overwhelmed, and he had his own flaws as a parent. So I think probably, thinking for a variety of reasons, like I need to be closer to my work, he moved to Santa Fe. So that's been a common theme in my life, is a lot of movement, a lot of my idea of home is vague. I don't have a strong sense of place of home because I've moved so much in my life. And so 12 years old, I'm there in Santa Fe and didn't really adjust well, man.
Is that why Rocco calls you Kerouac?
Well, it's funny that came later, and it, how things happen in your life that maybe when you're young, you don't get the gravity of it. You don't understand how significant it may be.
Right.
And then in retrospect, it's like, oh, that totally made, like, I that was like a combination of a few things. And my pops loved Kerouac, Jack Kerouac, the author. And he kind of passed that on to me, and I really absorbed and I like Jack Kerouac too, especially in college, and read a bunch of his books. And so I was a aspiring rapper at one point with Rock.
Right. We'll get into that.
And Rock we call Rodney. He's Rodney, but that's some other little goofy. That's a story right there. But so when I was thinking like, well, what's my rap name gonna be? I don't know. I was like, Kerouac. That's Kerouac the Wanderer. I think Jake the Snake, that would, and we'll talk about Jake the Snake.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
He would always say, Kerouac the Wanderer. But yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I think about that and it's like, it totally makes sense, because that's been my life, bro. On the road. I fucking crisscrossed this country by car more times than the average person, other than a fucking long distance trucker. And I've lived in.
Was that mostly
places.
because of that was what you personally wanted to do? Or was because your dad dragged you there?
Which to move
traveling so much.
Well, I will say I love traveling, right? But it's just like, I will say that I'm kind of one of those people that I've always gone through life just kind of like moving with it and accepting like, hey,
right.
This is what it is. Which is an interesting, I think it's definitely been a good survival tactic for me. But it also has this downside, because I did a lot of things very, I suppose, passively, where I was just like, I guess this is what this is what I got to do. And you don't question it, and you don't consider maybe there's a different way about it, and that affected, it's funny that ties to when I had a child, and just a lot of decision making where I didn't approach a lot of major decision making with the level of seriousness or thoughtfulness
right.
that life requires. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think that because you actually enjoy traveling, besides the fact that you needed to survive, right? Do you think that you naturally gravitated towards that because of your childhood trauma and things you went through, you just gravitated towards constantly running away from things instead of facing them head on?
Well, there's definitely instances that validate that, right? I mean, where I didn't learn and maybe still haven't mastered, like, hey, sometimes just confront something, get it over with, do the, blunt force trauma sort of. And, I did ghosting before ghosting was like a fucking like when ghosting became like I was like, damn, I've been doing that shit for fucking 2 decades, baby. Sad but true, man. But like, I mean, it is sad, even as I say it, man. Like I don't. It's probably not as light as I'm. It definitely isn't light because there's been a lot of consequences of that, and so yeah. I mean, I think there's. I mean, I'm sure everyone exists somewhere on that spectrum of their ability to just, confront a problem, address it, and get on with it. Is that me fucking...
Yeah, you're good.
My bad.
Little fresh tap.
Yeah.
Doing a little tap dance.
But I didn't acquire that skill or that ability necessarily to just be like, all right, let's talk about this. Like, and it goes back. I was telling you, I listened to your podcast, and communication, man, is some shit. I didn't learn to communicate well. I'm working on that. But fuck, dude, that shit's hard.
Well, I mean, not only do a lot of people not learn how to communicate, but males especially. And that, I don't know if that's like some preconditioned problem that males have where you have to be this machismo thing. You're not supposed to show any emotion, but I don't know, man. You're talking to a guy that was raised by a woman, so I was always taught to attack emotion head on, and I lived with a woman that always showed me, like, whether it was traumatic or not, when she felt it, she gave it to me. And that's how I carry my life. And it's got its flaws, but it's got its positives too. And, men in general don't like to not only admit when they're wrong, or just to give their heart, just to totally explain themselves as they feel it. And, we're not going to talk about this later, but that's a lot of the reason why I kind of gravitated towards Drake, no homo, pause. Even though a lot of his shit
we're going to talk about Drake, motherfucker.
A lot of his shit is toxic and, things like that. But the fact that he's vulnerable, whether it's cringeworthy or not, I always appreciated that because I personally could resonate with the vulnerability. I'm an open book. I like to wear my heart on my sleeve. And a lot of men have struggles with admitting those, and showcasing vulnerability.
That's toughness, right? Like or the way we fancy toughness to be when we're young, right? I think that being, sort of a closed book and like not, I think somewhere pretty young in life, I think a lot of men learn that, that's what girls do, right? The crying and this and yeah, so you're taught probably very subconsciously to bottle shit up and to tough it out. And I tell my daughter that I've seen, like I know there are parents out there that it's like, no, you don't have to bottle that up. Like you can, and like it's a whole parenting style. But I'm like, no, man, like I'm raising a daughter, not me, but we are raising a daughter.
Right.
And my belief is I want that of my daughter too. I want her to be tough and not like that. Life is tough, right? And so I think some of that is born out of it's reality, man. Like fucking life is tough, and venting and venting. It feels good, but it doesn't. It's not necessarily productive, right? So I think there's something to be said. I mean, there's something that got us to this place in the world through that level of toughness and that level of, maybe reservedness that men bring.
Right.
That it explains it, not justifies it, but it explains it. And it works. And it has worked, right? Because, I mean, well, I don't know. Some people might question that whether it's worked. But, I mean, look, like, to a certain extent, that we've all made it this far as a species, right, is because of the things we do. And for some people, there's a bitter pill to swallow that, are certain idiosyncrasies in our behaviors. But just like any other species, these are adaptive, man. Like we fucking developed these over millennia, and for probably well-justified reasons. And we were living in a pretty luxurious era, and academics got lots of time to parse these things, man, and question and criticize, and there's probably validity to it. But again, I don't think it's necessarily wrong that men are reserved, or that we, and that women may be less, right? Like there's, that's in some ways the beauty. Like if we were both the same way, or if, men were always fucking spilling their emotions.
Right.
Like, I mean.
Well, I think the key here is balance. I think with anything in life, whether it's water consumption, nicotine consumption, cannabis consumption, everything in life is all about balance. And especially with women, the one thing, if you think that you can figure a woman out, you're a retard. You're an absolute fucking degenerate cocksucker, because you're never going to figure out a woman, because they have a lot of these chemical imbalances that spike every month or whatever the case may be. And they have it difficult as far as hormones and things like that. So I don't think you'll ever figure a woman out.
I agree with that.
The thing is you need some sort of balance. Like, for instance, if you're totally submissive and you're one of those men that like we were talking about it earlier. Yes, man, you whenever the woman says, yes, you're good, you whatever, and the woman, it'll appeal to the woman in the beginning. But when you get to a certain point where it's just like, when there's no tension, like we were talking about, you need some sort of struggle. Yeah. That goes through not only with being a child, but all across your life. Yeah. Now, in your relationship, if you have zero struggle, where's the fun in it? It sounds sickening, but it's the truth. So for women need a man that will be a man, will be protective, will be a provider, but they also need someone that's going to listen to them when they speak. And they need someone that's going to be there when they need the hug, when they need the cuddle. And that is tough, because a man will say, well, where's my balance? Well, where's this? Well, we don't have that hormonal balance every month. So it's kind of tough to make both worlds collide, mesh, and work. And that's why there's always conflict, because of that.
No, I mean, I'm not a poster child for successful relationships, so I can't even really speak on that too much, because I didn't necessarily get the exemplars at home, either from my mom or from my dad.
Right.
And then I haven't really been in a successful relationship where I could be like, well, So I'm probably not much use here, but I can say that I know me, and I'm kind of pretty transparent about this. Like, I always tell people, and it's funny because I'm a Leo, right? And I'm not much of a...
you're a Leo.
I'm not much of a horoscope guy, but occasionally I am, and it's if the shoe fits, wear it.
Most of the time, the shoe does fit. Well, oddly enough,
it's crazy because I'm like, you know what, man? I am kind of like a cat. Like, the relationship I have with women is like, I love the attention until I don't, and it's like, okay, I appreciate you petting me. Now I'm gonna dip.
I feel you,
and I'll be back in, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, and I want you to pet me again, right? Like that's kind of how I operate.
Dude,
where
my dad is a Leo, and you saying that is hilarious.
It's crazy, man, because like I need breaks. I need breaks, bro, and it is sort of strange because it is only in a relationship with a woman. Because like when I'm hanging with my boys, I could fucking every single day get out of work and like, let's get a beer, like let's go watch fucking games, whatever. I don't get tired of that. And it's sad. I mean, I would say that because it's destructive and it's not conducive with a healthy relationship. I probably will concede that. Like, I can't deal with like day-to-day interactions with women, bro. It's too fucking stressful. And I will say 100%, I'm sure it has to do with my mother. Like, I tell people all the time, like just my relationship with my mother like eroded my patience and my tolerance for a lot of things, man. And
it makes perfect sense.
And that is, I mean, I'm sure if I fucking invested enough time in counseling, maybe they could save me. But I'm like, my bad, I keep stepping on that fucking metal plate. God damn it.
You're like fucking Tom Hanks and Big, right?
Stepping on them.
Give him a fresh step.
But yeah, man. So it is an interesting thing. Like I just.
Life is hard, man. It's not your fault, you know. Life is just
we're
all learning constantly, all of us.
Well, the one thing that I would argue that I have going for me is like I've always been pretty introspective, and so like my self-awareness is, and you know, I guess it doesn't mean shit if I don't do about it, but I am very aware of my tics and my flaws. Right. And I do, to a certain extent, try to work on those things. And then there's just certain things where I'm like, at a certain point, you're just like, I don't know if I care too much to like change this about me at this point. You know, it's like, I wrestle with that all the time. I'm like, you know, am I going to spend the next fucking 60, I don't know, I'm in my 40s. So, you know, I guess a solid 50 years, I'll be lucky, you know, in a state of solitude. That's I mean, and now I'm definitely opening myself up, but like my mom is probably gonna die alone. Sad to say, man. And I think all the time I'm like, damn, am I on her path a little bit knowingly, a little bit unbeknownst to me.
Right.
As we speak. Maybe for different reasons, because not nearly, I'd say, as much. I'm like I think in her case, it's like a lot of self-inflicted. Where maybe it is self-inflicted on my end, but like I think I have a little bit more dominion over that than she does. Like I probably could, you know, like be like, all right, I'm gonna settle down with this person or whatever, and I just. Again, I think the biggest it's really hard to share, especially like that's the one thing about being sort of a nomad is a lot of solitude in my life, and that can
you enjoy that freedom,
a lot of freedom, and maybe even that is sort of the product of maybe a lack of freedom or a lack of whatever when I was younger, but. It's been very hard to give that up, man. Like it's very hard to share space with people. Right.
There's something beautiful about that quiet. Yeah. That silence where you could just sit in your thoughts and be yourself. And I know because I'm an only child, so that's how I can relate to what you're saying. But I also enjoy the other stuff. So me personally, I'm always like fighting with, it's like everything I love in my life is just me a constant battle because I love both ends. I love everything. That's why I love video games. I love this. I love being a husband. I love being a dad, but I also love going to the mall by myself. Yeah. I don't want to fucking have my wife and kid me when I'm shopping for clothes. I want to be dolo. I want to think. I want to get in my car. I want to listen to music and drive alone. I don't want to hear my cousin yapping.
That's probably why you work on the train, bro. Like,
maybe, right?
Because your job is basically like
for the most part.
Although I guess it's a little different because you do have to interact with passengers, right?
Yeah, and crew members.
I will say that was, bro. I'll tell you, like the first year of working on a train, bro. You can get in your head that's like meditation, bro. Because
especially as a train operator, or in my case, a locomotive engineer, it's you're by yourself in the box, and that could make you stir crazy to a point.
Well, I mean, again, it really depends on how you approach it, and I mean, I didn't do it for long enough to, you know, there could have been years where it was all introspective and meditative. And then other years where I was going batty, but I wasn't there long enough to, you know, get to those points or have evidence of, you know, different ways of experiencing it.
Right. Well, look, one thing about you is you're a big fan of music as a whole. And you also, like myself, have a strong connection with the genre of hip hop. Huge, strong connection. Now, from your deep memory bank, what is your earliest memory of hip hop? And when did you fall in love with the genre or music as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's fairly easy for me to answer because there were probably, we listened to radio a lot back then, right? Like, and we were, again, I'm in rural northern New Mexico, and we probably listened to a Albuquerque hip hop station. I remember it's probably from my older brother and sister. Like, it's kind of funny because my older brother, like, some of my earliest memories, what's crazy? One of the earliest memories I have of music, one is Bananarama, Cruel Summer and all that shit.
Yeah, I know Bananarama.
And then my mom, like, we lived in Los Alamos, which is, first of all, you got like fucking former Nazis and shit that probably laying it up in that motherfucker.
Wow.
And I remember like there was a cafe owner and she was German or European and fucking snooty ass, if I'm being 100, but she would play a lot of classical music. So I got exposed to a lot of classical music going places. But then my older brother was into like, actually my older sister too, they were into like the high hair, like White Snake and all that shit. And then
The hair metal. Fire.
yeah, hair metal. And then
Fire.
my brother, at one point, he had the Single, remember Singles?
Yeah.
For One by Metallica.
Oh,
What a banger that song is. And actually, matter of fact, it might have been a video cassette single, like where you actually it was the music video for that. And so that was some of my really earliest exposure. But for whatever reason, I really got attached to hip hop. And my first shit was Ice Cube. And, funny story, like, I think I was either 11 or 12, only wanted one thing for my birthday. And talk about a cheap-ass birthday. I said, I asked my dad, I just want the Predator. It was either the Predator or Lethal Injection. I forget which. I think it was the Predator. And we went to the mall in Santa Fe. Because again, Santa Fe was the big town. Santa Fe is not a big city. It's like maybe 100,000.
Okay.
Albuquerque's the big city for like 500, 600,000. So we went to Santa Fe, to the mall, to like a Sam Goody. Remember Sam Goody's?
Sam Goody was the shit, bro.
And
coconuts.
my pops, for my birthday, he's going to buy me the Predator by Ice Cube. And which is actually hilarious in the sense that my pops didn't. This is kind of telling of the way my dad operated, but like he hadn't gotten me a gift in advance. Like on the day of my birthday, he's taking me to get this gift. It might have even been my birthday. I think it was though, actually. But we go to Sam Goody and I pick out the Predator and we go up to the front and the big mouth fucking clerk, as I hand it, I'm so excited, the little 11, 12-year-old, so excited. This all I wanted was this, all the little $11 cassette. And she goes, this is parental advisory, right? And my pops is like, what does that mean? She's like, well, it means that it has curse words and all this other stuff. And my pops is like, well, I guess we, and he wouldn't buy it. I was crushed, bro. I was crushed. Like there's been a few childhood moments where I remember being crushed. Jose Canseco getting traded from the A's because I was an A's fan.
Oh, you were a baseball head,
I was
huh?
a baseball head. And then not getting the Predator tape. And then I can't remember if it was before or after, but one of the first tapes I remember owning was, I guess my pops had read in like the New York Times or something about Arrested Development.
Wow.
So
Straight heat rocks.
The Mr. Window and the Ordinary People album, I think it was maybe just called, maybe it was a self-titled album, but that's definitely one of the first tapes I had. We had a little, rural New Mexico was a lot of country. So I remember like, there was a while where I was really fucking with Billy Ray Cyrus and shit like that. But
dude's a legend, bro.
But I went all in on hip hop, man. Like bro, do you remember when, I think it was Columbia, they sell you like, they'd send you 6 CDs.
Yeah, the mailing
like
service.
99 cents. Bro, I got in debt at like the age of 12 because I owed for all these fucking CDs, bro. I was ordering CDs like a madman. And I had some fire, dude. I had like Warren G, Regulate. But, early on, I remember I had, there was still early on a lot of variety. I remember I was being exposed to, like, who sang that song? Runaway train, never come back. Remember that shit?
Of course. I forget who sang that, though. I'm a little too drunk, I think.
Yeah. But, like, I remember having all those CDs. Because, again, like, with that Columbia service, and to this day, I don't know how the fuck that worked, dude. Like, that was some sort of racket.
Yeah,
it had to have been some type
for
of
sure.
racket. But...
runaway train, never come back. Damn, now that's stuck in my head now, bro.
Bro, that's it. But it was a banger.
That shit was heat.
That shit was a banger. But
Eat rocks, bro.
so I had a lot of random CDs, but then around 14, 15, it just became, I mean, there was still a little bit of R&B, you know, because Monica and Brandy were popping then. I remember I Wanna Be Down, Aaliyah, like crazy.
The 90s were the greatest. Let's just say
dude,
it.
there was
the golden era for sure.
There was so much good music. But then, and all right, like my first concert I remember going to was Looney's, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and
wow.
I feel like there was one more.
Just those two alone, like, wow.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, and again, I was probably 14, 15, but very much West Coast. There was so much West Coast music playing on the radio. They weren't really playing East Coast shit on the radio in New Mexico. So, you know, I remember I had Scarface, The Diary. Fucking love that album, bro. That is such a impeccable album in my memory. And bro, I was stealing tapes like a motherfucker. Like that Scarface.
From where?
Wherever I could get my... Bro,
you was a booster, huh?
I went through a whole thievery era, bro. From
you was boosted,
bro. When I was maybe 12, it was 7th grade. We're from that generation. We were unsupervised like a motherfucker. Although I guess my daughter's kind of a latchkey child now to a certain.
Well, that's because she's from NY. NY is a different animal.
It is, but yeah, we were rural and unsupervised, bro. I learned. My pops taught me how to drive at like 9 or 10, right? And I remember, bro, he would be 40 miles away from us, and a bunch of kids in the summer, like we would take my pop's truck and just drive around. I remember I almost fucking flipped that thing at like the age of 10, 11.
Damn.
To this day, I remember we did a fucking 3-wheel motion, maybe 2-wheel, because I knew how to drive, but I didn't know that well. I took a turn going like 45, like a hard turn, like straight, right angle type turn. And I remember the car being like, and I was like, oh shit, let me fucking, So anyway, I'm digressing like a motherfucker, but what were we talking about? Music, my bad. All this from music, man. But yeah, at some point, I think I started reading the source, right? Because I think it was only the source, and then eventually XXL and all those.
Right.
But like I absorbed the source, and front to end, and I was looking at the fashion.
Right.
I was looking at and all the rhymes of, what did they have? The rhyme of the month. Remember that shit? That that was the big deal. Like whoever got the rhyme of the month on any given month,
and the mic rating for the albums,
the mic ratings, and so that shit influenced me like a motherfucker. So like I remember, okay, I got the Infamous, and then Hell
bro.
on
The
Earth.
Infamous is perfection.
100%. And you know what's crazy is like there was a lot of East Coast shit that when I first heard it, like the what's the Roots second album? The one with I Say Woman. I forget what the name of it.
This is the one thing I hate about drinking before I record.
Yeah.
I fucking draw blanks with that stuff. You're not talking about
Do You Want More? Do You Want More? I had that, and some of these albums, like, they landed on me. I think like someone gave a fucking gang of CDs that, like, my dad remarried, and his wife knew someone at a newspaper, and so they would send all these CDs for the fucking music critic
right
to review, and they dumped them all on me. And it was hilarious. Like the Fushnickers was in there. There was like some stupid ass.
Bum, skibbity, bum, skibbity, bum, bum.
No, it wasn't Fushnickers. It was the Rumpelstiltskins. Do you know
wow.
that?
Yes. I remember.
And so I had all, and among those was Do You Want More?
Do You Want More is crazy, bro.
But young me that was like on my West Coast shit, like I didn't fuck with it. Like it didn't resonate for me at that time. It was years later.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because you are technically West Coast.
Oh, bro.
That'll have a different taste.
I was on Snoop. I was on Dre. I was on tons of Ice Cube. And then I was, because of the source, I was like, but the thing is the infamous, definitely, like there was never, and I fucking play that end to end again and again, and I loved it. And then
me and Rocco talk about that album tons of times.
Bro, Reasonable Doubt. I got a hold of Reasonable Doubt real early on.
That's perfection.
And then Beats, Rhymes, and Life. I played the fuck out of Beats, Rhymes, and Life, dude.
You're wearing a Marauders jersey right now, yo.
Baby. And it's crazy because there must have been a lot of influences because one of my boys' older brothers, he was a fucking crazy stoner. They were all stoned. A lot of stoners in Santa Fe, New Mexico, bro. It's like a Burlington, Vermont of the West, a bunch of dirty hippies everywhere. But his older brother would bump the shit out of Midnight Marauders. And then one of the Black Sheep albums, I can't remember which one, but it was the one with Past the 40 on it. Past the 40,
I was supposed to have Drez on my pod.
No shit.
My man did a documentary on him. Did you watch the documentary on him?
Nah.
Bro, you got to see it. It's about an album he was trying to create with J Dilla beats.
Ooh.
And I don't want to ruin it for you.
Damn.
But you got to watch my man Tom Caballero. I did a podcast with him before I did the video thing. And he talks all about it, and that shit is bananas. Shout out Drez. We had a date set, and then it got screwed up. Hopefully one day we get it popping.
I was gonna say, keep working on that. Random side note, but I'm taking my daughter to Montreal on Thursday. And
wow.
DJ Jazzy Jeff is the Montreal Jazz Festival. I guess it's like 10 or 15 day festival or whatever.
You're taking your daughter?
So I'm taking her to Montreal, but it just so happened I was looking up shit to do, and I said, oh shit, Montreal Jazz Festival, which is a world famous, like some badass motherfuckers like done that shit, right? But it just so happens on opening night is Thursday, which is the night we're riding up there, taking the train, which is a whole fucking 12-hour journey. But DJ Jazzy Jeff is doing a Dilla night I'm like, fuck. And my daughter fucks with Dilla, bro. She fucks with Dilla.
That's my goat.
I know. And actually, what's funny is I always loved it. Like, look, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. That's like fucking laden with beats from Dilla.
The Love Movement was like the main one that was like all Dilla.
That was when it became the
Which is still Dilla.
I know, but on Beats, Rhymes, and Life, he was getting credits, right? And so, that was back when, again, I was the motherfucker reading the source, and then I was the motherfucker reading the CD and the cassette, like
the liner notes.
The liner notes,
right?
Exactly. Which is, eventually, at some point we started moving away from CDs and all that. Like at first, I remember one of my girlfriends had like some little digital motherfucker, and I guess it was like an early MP3. And what album I had on there that I rocked the shit out of was still one of my favorite albums is The Lost Tapes, Nas.
Yeah, yeah. You always did like that. I remember you loving that record.
To me, I always tell people it's like, to me, it's one of his best albums.
Well, Nas is your GOAT, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
If arguably it was written to some people is better than Illmatic.
I mean, I could go that way. Rocco, Rodney.
Shout out Rodney, Rocco, Rodney, fucking King Mushroom.
we talk about that a lot, and I could make the case for both. Illmatic, I think I actually rocked. It was written maybe a little bit more before Illmatic, because again, like I wasn't hearing shit on the radio, and I actually like,
Right.
bro, I actually had to like get CDs. Like the only way I was gonna hear something is if I went and got the CD.
And it's East Coast rap. You're on the West Coast. I didn't even think about that. The shit on the radio, you're not gonna hear mostly East Coast shit.
We were hearing like Lighter Shade of Brown. You remember? You do know Lighter Shade of Brown?
Yeah,
That was. And the thing is, I fuck with, you know, that was our shit. Like for Hispanic people, Frost, Kid Frost, Lighter Shade of Brown.
Wow.
Later it was like South Park, and I don't really fuck with that South Park Mexican shit. But like there's always been like that was heavy. But a lot of lowrider music, right? Like that was like Espanol, New Mexico, which is more or less my hometown. Like I grew up 20 minutes north of there. That is called the lowrider capital of the world. And like that's what, you know, New Mexico is the type of spot that in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, we had cruise lines in Santa Fe when we were in high school. You had this cruise line where that's what the fucking kids would do, bro, because we didn't have better shit to do. Like, which is again, like New Mexico is a depressing ass place to grow up. It's tough for kids, man. It's really a not an ideal place. But you had this strip, and everybody would be in a car, and you just drive and circle. And fucking occasionally people would pick fights, fucking shoot at each other. Like
Jesus.
It was just, but a lot of lowriders, man. And
Did you ever fuck with Mr. Doctor? You ever heard of that cat?
no, then. But what about Mr. Grimm? Do you remember Mr. Grimm?
Of course.
Mr. Grimm was.
He did an album with MF Doom back in the day. You remember that album?
You think of MF Grimm?
Oh, you're right.
Mr. Grimm's song was.
I don't remember Mr. Grimm.
It was.
Yeah, MF Grimm. Yeah, right.
Mr. Grimm was straight up West Coast, and there's a song. Oh, dude, can I look it up?
Dude, you can. Dude, Mr. Doctor is like one of my favorite Crip West Coast rappers ever. Dude.
It was called the Indo Smoke, I think. Bro, can you play some shit, right?
Yeah, I probably could.
Indo Smoke.
Probably play some shit,
bro. You gotta yeah, it's called Indo Smoke, Mr. Grimm. I'm telling you, this is actually a West Coast banger. This is certified. This is.
Let's see if I can find it.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right, so I'm not gonna play the Mr. Grimm because I don't want to get flagged. But continue what you were saying.
No, all good. But yeah, I think we just were getting down a hip hop rabbit hole. But like, bro, I could talk hip hop till the cows come home, man.
Right.
And then just music in general, like it's actually been, you know, I think, you know, some of that came from my pops, maybe a little bit from my mom. Fascinating things. My grandfather was he was an opera cat. You know, my grandfather.
Oh, yeah?
On my dad's side, he had German stock, man, and you know, he was the type that he would like hum, like very musically, he loved going, like he didn't like going to church as far as I could tell, but he would go, and like the best part of the fucking church service was when he could sing the songs, like the hymns, right? But there's like, it's kind of sad, man. Like I have zero musical talent, but I love music. And my daughter's actually in a musical school right now, so she's gotten a lot more musical training. She knows how to play piano, the bongos. She plays cello.
Damn.
But she's
shout out Sarai, bro.
Yeah, Sarai's she's a G, man. It's funny, man. Like that, and I think you probably seen some of the stuff I put on Instagram. But like, she's a big moment. Like, first of all, she fucks with Dilla hard. Like she
my goat.
But she also fucks with Doom. Like one day, bro, like you talk about like, I'm like, like my parenting, it's like mission accomplished. One day out of the blue, she's like, yo, peep what I'm listening to. And she didn't say peep. She was like, check out what I'm listening to. And it was Meat Grinder from Doom, right?
Wow, that's a cut right there, bro.
And I get it, because like she fucks with a bop. Like I think like head nodding type shit.
Right.
She fucks with. But yo, I mean, it's funny because we, you know, I feel like one thing that you and I have in common is, you know, we both fucks with a lot of that, like, kind of nerd rap, like that underground shit too. Like, and it's funny you mentioned Atmosphere before. That was actually one of the songs I really bonded with.
Don't say it yet.
Oh, am I jumping the gun?
I got a whole joint for that.
But yeah, man, like it's funny because I have, my life is like iterations, man. It's phases, it's periods. Around the time I got out of college, and then I moved to New York, but I basically abandoned hip hop. And I didn't like fully abandon it, but I moved to Washington Heights, and I was like, fucking all the salsa, the merengue, the fucking bachata. Dude, I got so deep into bachata, bro. Reggaeton.
So wait, why did you move to Washington Heights?
Well, I mean, we definitely all over the place in terms of timeline, but I went to college in Boston, right? And, you know, again, I'm a New Mexico boy, and I actually started college in Arizona, University of Arizona in Tucson. Had a miserable freshman year, mostly because I didn't get in the dorm, and that will fuck up your whole college experience. So I had gone to high school in St. Louis and made friends with a few folks that were from the Boston area. So I think that was a little bit of a pull. My high school that I went to was like a religious school, and the so-called mother church for it was in Boston. So like there might have been some different.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You went to high school in St. Louis?
For my final 2 years of high school.
So the first 2 years were in New Mexico,
in Santa Fe.
How did you end up in St. Louis?
So, a few things. Again, I moved to Santa Fe from my little small rural town, and I didn't. It was sort of the beginning of a pretty significant spiral. Like it was slow, but like just started performing. You know, I'd always been a pretty good student, and my 8th grade year, I was like kind of bullied a lot. You know, I was coming from I was an attention seeker, right? And I think it rubbed a lot of people wrong. You know, I thought I was funny. People didn't think I was funny. You know, shit like that. So I kind of started struggling beginning in 8th grade, going to 9th grade. Didn't really have a lot of friends. Like I had friends, but fucking all the miscreants, bro. Like I literally, like you could see how people just get down the wrong path. That was me. In 9th and 10th grade, I fucking started failing everything. Like I was failing like art, bro. Like I'd go to art class, and you know, me and a bunch of other kids that were just knuckleheads, we would just sabotage everybody else's artwork. So we never made any progress. So we never had anything to turn in. So, and I'd get kicked out like every day, right? And so there were a few courses I did well in, like English and history. Everything else, math, I was failing, art, you know. And then by sophomore year, I think one of the things that really, and like my pops had remarried, and that marriage was going off the rails, and he was distracted by work, and he's a single dad. And we're growing up in New Mexico, which I'll just keep reiterating, like New Mexico, like is brutal on kids, man. And so, I think one of the things that really freaked out my pops and my grandparents, I like got stabbed my sophomore year.
You got stabbed?
I got stabbed. Like I got fucking, what do you call the buck 50? Got buck 50'd.
Why? And where?
I mean, it was some stupid shit. And really, I mean, it was just dumb. Again, we were just a bunch of fucking unsupervised kids fucking with each other all the time. And like someone that theoretically was my friend, and we were always fucking with one another. And he just fucking lost it and sliced me. And I think it fucking, someone I think freaked out. I think, like I don't know in retrospect, you know, like I can only speculate, but I think at some point, my grandparents and my grandmother was a Christian Scientist, which not Scientology, but
Christian Science? What the fuck
Christian
is
Science.
that?
So
What?
the easiest way I describe it is like the Christian Science is sort of like a belief in one is a couple things: healing through prayer, and they really don't believe that there's illnesses and like everything that is bad is man-made, and all good. The mantra is God is good, and so everything is created in His likeness, so it can only be good. And so bad things are the product of our minds. So it's a big mind over matters type of thing.
With all due respect, that sounds a little like mental illness.
No, actually, I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think it's
you support what is it called? Christian Scientist?
Christian Science. I mean, I actually think there's a lot of virtue that I gained out of it. Sort of. It goes back to what we were talking about, like being a malingerer, where you're just like, oh, like I'm sick, and it's like if you allow that, then you become it. Where it's like the opposite is where, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not full down that fucking
path.
I didn't, but my grandmother did, and there's a whole story there. Like the long and short of it is, she went through her own shit where like she comes from a her dad abandoned her, and they were practically orphaned, and then she really freaked out when my grandfather got deployed overseas during World War II, like every fucking American during those times. And she kind of had a breakdown. They gave her electric shock treatment. So
oh my God, that's the stuff of horror movies, dude.
Yeah, man. And
oh shit.
And I only learned this later on because she did like a getaway with a bunch of my cousins and others, and I guess they had a little sit down where they're all sitting around and just spilling each other's stories and guts and whatnot. And someone said, "Well, how the hell did you become a Christian Scientist?" And she said, "Well, the way I understand it is," she said, "Well, it just happened to be what was presented to me at that time. It could have been Buddhism, it could have been any number of things, but someone presented me with that."
And she needed something to latch on to have hope.
Yep. And so she practiced it ever since. And like, I'm not a practitioner, my pops isn't, but I will say it saved me because, like I said, like 10th grade, I was on a path that wouldn't have ended well. And I think someone intervened, and they were like, well, maybe you should send them to this school. And they had a private school. They only have one location for their high school in the country, and it's in St. Louis. And my grandparents were like, send them out for a weekend. And I think I'd done a summer camp with that church like 2 summers before or something, if I remember correctly. So I went out for like a visiting weekend, and I kind of shameless, classic me, like all the girls at the high school were like I was like this fucking unique looking, I don't know what it was, but they were loving me. And I was in this high school where I was just fucking miserable, and I was like, I fuck with this. So I was like, yeah, I'll go. And it's interesting because talk about, just story of, Latinos, and, me and my mom almost, crab in the bucket. Like the day before I was about to move out to St. Louis, like almost, trapped me in this not going. And fortunately that didn't work. I almost got kicked out of that high school before it even started. I got in so much, I went for football camp. And in the first 2 weeks I was there, I threw a Bible and it hit a guy in the eye. Almost took his eye.
Threw a Bible?
Dude, I was wilding.
Why?
Dude, I was just fucking.
But why the Bible?
Because we were doing like a early morning study, and this kid passes out, and I had it in my hand, and I was impulsive, and I would do stupid shit. So I was like, "Oh, he's knocked out. Let me wake him up." And so I fucking. Why? Because I was a fucking idiot. I was impulsive. I was low self-esteem. I was all these things. And yeah, to this day, I'm like, what the fuck? But anyway, so I went to that school. They had a lot of intensive. I didn't know it at the time, but like they literally assigned me somebody for like, it was either the first year or the first semester that just, I had a one-on-one with this person every single day. And in retrospect, it was like they knew my deal. Like that's why why they didn't kick me out right before the school. You know, like, and it saved me, man. Like I'm blessed. You know, you and I were talking about this before you started recording. But like, I have a very like, I hate when people talk about privilege. He's privileged. You know, like I'll be the first to acknowledge I've had some privilege in my life, but like I've also had severe struggles. But everybody, first of all, you living in the United States, you privileged. So don't fucking talk to me. Like, bro, go to any other country and tell me about privilege, right?
That's a fact.
It's levels, right? And I just say that to say that, like, I'm aware, even within my siblings, like I had, like, unfortunately, I don't have a relationship with really any of my immediate family. And of my siblings, probably the most privileged among a bunch of us that look like we suffered a lot of shit growing up, right? And so it's all relative, man. And yet I struck the lotto because I got lucky enough to actually, you know, get sent out of a bad situation and get a lot of support. And some of that 100% is because, like, I had this whole Anglo white side of my family that one had resources and a desire to, like, hey, let's do something about this. Like, this ain't normal, right?
Right.
And so anyway, you were asking me how the fuck I got to Boston, I think. So anyway, started with St. Louis in high school. And I dated a girl that was from New Hampshire, I think. She was from Western Mass. And her best friend, who I was pretty close with, she was from just outside Boston. So we graduate college. I go to U of A. I did the University of Arizona. It was not the best freshman year. One of these girls is at University of Colorado in Boulder. She didn't like her freshman year, so we started cooking up this idea, like, let's go to Boston. I was looking to go anywhere on the East Coast because, again, I was a hip hop kid, and I was like, so at that point I went all in on East Coast.
That's what's funny is hip hop is the root of this whole thing.
100%. And I really wanted to be in a big city, so I just looked at colleges in Atlanta, New York, maybe Philly, and Boston. And it's crazy because this was like 99 and we did have internet. And I remember doing internet searches, and shout out to Northeastern University. That's where I got my undergrad degree. They somehow landed on my radar and somehow convinced me that it was going to be affordable. I applied, I got accepted, which, that school is crushing it right now, man. So, like, I'm kind of amazed. I wasn't exactly a stellar student. Like, I had the capabilities, but I wasn't a great student. And yet I got in that school, and now it's like fucking, that school's crushing it, man. So I get to ride the coattails of their later success.
Right.
But I studied 3 years in Boston. That's where I met Rocco.
How did you meet? I'm really interested in how you met Rocco exactly.
Shit, man. Well, first of all, I did more fucking jobs. Like, I worked all through college. Like, again, I don't come from, I'm privileged, but I ain't that privileged, right? Like, I fucking work all through college, man. And
you met him at Hip Zeppy, wasn't it?
Hip Zeppy.
Hip Zeppy.
Hip Zeppy.
You have Hip Zeppy.
Giuseppe. So, what was homeboy's name?
What the fuck is Hip Zeppy?
Bro,
is that a clothing store?
Bro, Pete, there was a clothing store, and the owner, and we always theorized they were fucking. It was a white woman and then a Jamaican, and his name was Delroy.
Delroy?
Delroy. But you know,
Delroy.
the accent was like Delroy. And so, you know, that's where we met. And that was actually not my first job. So I think the first job I had in Boston was at a place called City Sports, which is of a bygone era. I think they had them in Philly and Boston. I don't think they had them in New York.
What was it, like a sneaker spot?
It was
gear joint.
It was like athletic sneakers for sure. And bro, and again, I hope the feds don't come, but definitely there was a lot of merchandise may have walked out the door there.
Fell off the truck.
100%, dude. So that was a theme. Like I would work at these spots and then they get wise to me. So then I would just ghost. Like I was ghosting jobs too.
Yeah,
like
you were a wild boy, bro. You were a sick fuck. You were a sick fuck.
So I went from there to Hip Zeppy, and Rocco was working there. And we just became fast friends. And a lot of it was 100% hip hop. Like, first of all, it was like the type of job where you have a lot of time where you don't have customers. And so, and you know, Rock, he talks a lot. I talked a lot. So we just started talking hip hop, right? And we just realized like we fucked with all the same shit, right? And like the same, like, you know, like how, you know, there's like we were passionate about hip hop and like argumentative and like, you know, that type of hip hop fan. And I think same deal. I think he outlasted me there because after a while I had to hit him with the ghost one more time to start to get wise. And I was
the typical nomad Clayton.
I will say I always kind of knew when the ring was closing in on me, and I was like, I remember when I left Hip Zeppy, it was like there was one day when I was like, I think they're gonna bag me when I come back from work. So I left for lunch. And I just didn't come back.
You were boosting too much?
100%.
Or were you boosting a Visu jeans?
They had that. It was academics and I don't think a Visu had hit yet. It was academics and
Red Monkey jeans, dude.
Iceberg. I never wore no Iceberg, but we sold a lot of Iceberg in that Hip Zeppy. But that's where I met Rock. And, you know, I spent a lot of, you know, and so we didn't go to school together. Jake the Snake and I went to Northeastern.
Right, Rocco went to the Berklee College of Music.
Rocco and Soper. And so it's crazy because we spent the next fucking 3 years chilling all the time, even though we didn't go to the same school, which is one of the dope things about Boston is there's so many colleges there.
So you all met at Hip Zeppy?
Well, no, just Rock. Like, you know, what's funny, man, is like I have always sort of been the glue in a lot of different relationships. Like, I'm the connection between Jake and Rocco, right? Because I think Rocco and I actually became friends before Jake the Snake and I. But then later I became friends with Jake the Snake. And because we were friends, I introduced them to Rock, and then they became friends, you know.
Snizza Snake slither through the ladies in the crowd. Shout out Jake, yo.
Spitting his bars.
The Arrival was, bro. I still have like 10 copies of that shit.
That's crazy, bro. You are
sealed.
You are a fan. I love it.
I'm an archivist, bro.
But yeah, we spent those. I spent those 3 years in Boston, and you know, it was towards the end of my senior year. You know, you start thinking about where you're gonna work and whatnot.
Right.
And I saw an ad. I would ride the train to work, and there was an ad for Teach for America, and I was always like, I somewhere along the line, and it comes from my pops, my grandparents, even my mom's side, like a desire to like help people, and so like the ad resonated with me. I can't. It must have been, you know, I'm sure it was some shit like save the world or whatever the fuck,
right.
And I was like, all right, and I applied for Teach for America. But I remember I still, like, hip hop was still, at that point, like, I was still like, maybe I could be a rapper, right? You know? So I indicated on the application, like, Teach for America was nationwide. And it was like, where are all the different locations that you're willing to work? And, I was like, I'll move to LA, I'll move to New York. I said maybe Houston probably, because again, I was a Scarface. I'd like, anywhere where there was some hip hop. I was like, yeah, Atlanta, I think was one of the options. And Teach for America did not accept me, those elitist bastards. But they said, but you should consider applying for New York City Teaching Fellows, which was a very New York City specific program.
Right.
So I applied for that, got accepted, had to go down an interview and the whole nine. And again, this is sort of reflective of how I live my life. Like, I knew I was going to New York, but like I hadn't gotten it figured out. So I remember I graduated on June 16th, 2003. I moved to New York that same day without a place.
That same day?
Same day. I just took all my shit, fucking, or maybe it was the day after. It might have been like June 17th, but like literally just the stuff. And again, my pops was hands off, man. So it wasn't like, you see like the parents that like fly you out to help you move. That wasn't me. It was just me. Like, I think I got on a Funghua bus, bro. Remember them Funghuas? And I came down and stayed in a YMCA for a week. And I was like hella expensive. And I was like, well, this shit won't last. I'm going to, and so I was like desperately trying to find a place to live, couch surf for like 3 days. And I had like these clunky ass suitcases, bro. It was rough. Kerouac, baby. And so I think it was a few things.
Hold on one second. There's one thing that I want to really highlight.
Yeah.
Before you go any further regarding your New York venture, I want to double back a little bit because there's a part of your Boston lifestyle that I really want to not only learn about but highlight. Okay,
all right.
It's besides meeting Rocco is, I got it's because of my cousin Rocco that I got put onto a lot of
Hip hop.
Yeah, not only hip hop, underground hip hop, and a lot of stuff that like molded my taste to this day. I owe a lot to my cousin Rocco, and you know that.
100.
Especially the underground scene in Boston.
Yeah, man.
I would have never known about any of that stuff if it wasn't for Rocco, and predominantly the Greater Good crew. The Greater Good crew. Could you dive in a bit for me? Regarding the Boston hip hop scene as a whole.
Yeah.
And, how did you come across many of those people involved in that scene? And what was so special about it to you?
Well, what's funny, man, is like some of that actually traces back to St. Louis. It's crazy, man. Like around that time, late 90s, there were some hip hop web pages. I think undergroundhiphop.com. Do you remember that joint? And then there was,
of course, that's where the fucking the Caged for Your Box mixtape was released on, bro.
Yeah. And
the best.
And you could stream stuff, so you could actually hear it
Right.
and whatnot. And there was there was some other cat from Chicago, some white boy, Ryan something, that he had a page too. And actually, I think I ended up writing for that dude on his web page.
Wow.
When I moved to Boston, like, and it was dope because like. I think I got a free copy of Deltron 3030, but I had to review it, right? And write up, which was, somewhere there's a review that I wrote.
Well, that's up your alley because you partaked in journalism and all that.
Yeah, well, I was a journalism major at the time too, which
right.
for maybe a couple semesters. That's what I got my major in, but like for a few semesters, I actually thought it would be interesting, and then I kind of weaned myself with
right.
it. But I never changed my major. But so it's funny. One little anecdote is I remember I went to a Phife Dawg show in St. Louis. Like Phife was performing solo and he was doing some solo music. And I remember going to his show, and because of the internet, I had read about his show the previous night where he had debuted this song. So he's on stage and he's like, "We're about to drop a new song." And I like said the song out loud. And I remember he literally came up to me and was like, "How the fuck did you know that?" And I was like, because the internet, like hella nerdy, bro, which is classic, because that was underground hip hop.
That's sick.
But it was like a moment. He literally stopped the show, and I was front row for fucking Fight Dog, and he came up to me, dapped me up, and he's like, "How the fuck did you know that?"
I wonder if we could find that footage anywhere.
Probably, man. I mean, well, I don't know. You know, St. Louis. What was the name of shit? I can't remember.
Wow.
But anyway, so I'm in Boston, and I was doing journalism. I actually interviewed Acrobatic.
Shout out Acrobatic
for our school newspaper, and I think he had gone to Northeastern for a period. It's like he I don't know if he graduated there, but he was from there, and there were so many underground shows happening in Boston. Like you had a couple spots, the Middle East. You had a lot of great shows there, underground, a lot of underground heads. And there was a scene there, think some of these guys are still going. Apparently 7L and Esoteric are still rocking.
Are they? Really?
Yeah. Well, they did that whole Czarface or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Which I actually just listened to because someone, you know who, this motherfucker, do you fuck with Kurt Vile?
I don't know who that
He's dope, dude. He's dope as fuck. I think
Kurt Vile?
Yeah, I think he was part of the War on Drugs, the rock band, and they're dope as fuck.
Oh, really?
And then he went off solo, and he's kind of like a little Bob Dylan-esque kind of, granola-y, but no, it's dope. I fuck with Bob Dylan.
I'll check it out. I know you love Bob.
Bob Dylan is my shit.
I thought he was a little overrated as far as like his sound. Well, not his lyrics, his sound.
His vocals, his that nasally, his voice is not gonna...
Overrated, in my opinion.
I mean, the complete package, though, and I mean, just so... Anyway, I don't even want to get on that side, but Kurt Vile said his Perfect 10 was one of those Czarface albums, and it has MF Doom on it. Like, fucking Esoteric and Inspector Deck and MF Doom. Like, that's kind of a fucking crazy thing. Because I remember he was... I remember he went to like Andover, it's a pretty ritzy fucking North Boston, like North Shore Boston private school, right? But he was dope. Like he had a swagger and a cadence and shit. And remember that song Protocol? I always loved that song Protocol. That
at the moment I don't recall.
It started with like a Star Wars. He's like, You seem well versed in protocol or some shit, and it was like C-3PO saying some shit. It was fire, but
straight nerd shit.
Well, yeah, I mean Star Wars. Although funny shit is everybody if you don't fuck with Star Wars, bro, there's something wrong with you. So
I got to keep it a buck. I'm not really a sci-fi guy.
Okay,
but if you're gonna put a war up, Star Trek for Star Wars, I'm picking Star Wars all day, cousin.
I think the sleeper on that one is fucking Dune. Those Dune shits are fire, dude. The books are incredible. But anyway, so...
Shout out David Lynch, rest in peace, cuz.
Well, and then now they got the new ones with...
Chalamet.
Chalamet, but who's the director's a badass. He's the one that did Incendies and all that shit. He's
Right.
But, so, there was a great scene and at that time, underground hip hop, you had all the Philly cats coming up. Remember Jedi Mind Tricks and
of course, shout out Vinny Paz
and you have fucking Mr. Liff and man, there were some other.
Philly always had spitters. They were very aggressive, but they always had spitters.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and between Boston and Philly, to me, those are two of the ruggedest cities in the United States.
Right.
Like, dude, when I moved to Boston. And again, I've always been sort of an obnoxious. I've toned that down a lot, but in my younger days, like I didn't know a lot of good self-regulation, so I'd be annoying to people. And it's funny because like I had been in Boston for like a month, and some fucking brawler ass Irish chick fucking popped me in the nose. And I was like, is that not these people to a T? Like the Irish, they're angry and violent, and they're always ready to fight. And I'll tell you what. Put some respect on Irish people. Those motherfuckers.
Yeah, dude. They rugged, bro.
Bro, and the craziest brawls I've ever seen in my life. Actually, I think I was with Rock. It was St. Patty's Day, and
You know, he brought up St. Patty's Day to me. He told me that shit was wild.
Bro, well, we went one year, and it was hilarious because Chris DeLucia and Scott Diudo, rest in peace, they went up. And it was actually hilarious because for whatever reason, like at that point, like Scott and Chris,
I miss Scott, bro.
they would just keep they kept like beating the shit out of each other. Like they'd throw themselves into cars, and like they were just beating up the whole time while we were like walking through South Boston. And we, like South Boston during, and Dorchester, I think we were in both neighborhoods during St. Patty's Day. You know, people would just let you walk in their homes. Everybody's having parties. Nobody gives a fuck. Or at least that's how it felt to us. But I remember we would just like walk into people's homes and be like, I guess let's see if we can just walk up in here and drink. And we did. We went to a bunch of houses, right? And the whole time we were like, I'm just waiting for one of these motherfuckers just to flip on us and like, who the fuck are y'all? And it never happened. But at one point we were drinking, and we go out in the street. It was crazy. There's two families on houses opposite one another, and they both have porches, and they were just fucking jawing one another. And then these people just spill into the street and start beating the fuck out of each, like 25, like two clans just clashing in the street, bro. That's some Irish shit, dude. That's some South Boston, and again,
Southie.
Philly, same shit, man. It's just you got some hardened motherfuckers, bro. Like,
Right.
And I've learned to respect them, man. But
how did you get involved in the hip hop scene in Boston and predominantly the Greater Good cats? Like, how did you align with Benny Blanco and fucking Amadeus the Stampede and Jake the Snake? Because these guys were insane, dude. You got to remember me as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm looking up to Rocco. Rocco's my older cousin. He's put me onto tons of underground hip hop. And he's put me onto this Boston shit that nobody in my neighborhood knows of. So I'm getting all these CDRs. I'm getting all this music. And I'm putting everybody on to this shit. So I really want to know how you got familiar with the Greater Good movement and how that whole shit involved.
And I was more adjacent because like and again, my connection was initially Jake. Jake and I think we showed up at like a freestyle battle, and Jake, you know, like he was nice. Like he had that talent for freestyling, like more so than me for sure. But I had seen him at one of these freestyle battles. It was just like we were in like like the quad of the university, right? And all these people were out there, and so. Like a week or two later, I see him, and I just seen him. I was like, yo, Jake the Snake. And I literally called him out. And he's like, oh, what's up? And we started rapping. And we just started hanging out after that. And then at some point, because we were always hanging out, and I was always hanging out with Rocco, we connected. I met Benny Blanco, who that dude, there were two cats in that crew that I really fuck with. Some of them I did not, and I'll be 100. Like, there's some of them that rubbed me the fuck wrong, and I just didn't fuck with them. But like Benny Blanco, first of all, I love the music. He has some crazy. There's songs that he had that I like would play on repeat that I fucked with as someone.
He was a smart dude, bro.
Oh, he was brilliant. It's kind of crazy because he always had like this bizarreness to him, and maybe a little mentally unstable, and even now, like he runs like the craziest Instagram. I don't know if you know about his Instagram.
Nah, you gotta put me on, Benny. Shout out Benny, bro.
And he turned into a pretty wild right wing kind of Trumper these days. So.
Oh, come on.
Well, it's crazy.
I'm not tagging him then. Fuck Benny. Fuck Benny Blanco, bro.
But he ain't wrong about everything. So that's a whole other conversation. But so. I fucked with him heavy, and then Witty Wiz.
Witty Wisdom was my favorite, son.
Well, and the thing I always love about Wiz is he fucked with my music. He loved how I wrote, and he would always dissect because everybody else was like, "What the fuck is he saying?" Because my shit was all over the place, but he always fucked with, and we were real good homies for a number of years. those were the two I really hung out with, and Jake, and then Rock, and then. But my thing is,
You fuck with Amadeus and Stampede, bro?
well, that's like we didn't get along. And part of it.
He seemed emotionally unstable from the outside looking in.
Well, and I remember one of the things he did that just rubbed me wrong. At one point, I would always drive my cousin's vehicle. He had a nice Jeep Grand Cherokee. Like people joke, did you ever hear like I was like the Fresh Prince of Jamaica Plain? Because I was like the little hood kid living out in fucking Jamaica Plain in this 3-story house. So they had a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I had parked it somewhere by the university one night. We were going to a party, and the motherfuckers come to tow it. And we showed up just as they were towing it, and we were like, no, like, can you let us slide?
Right.
And Amadeus is there, and he knew the tow truck driver. So we were like, oh, word, like, maybe he can talk him out of it. And he pulls him to the side, and they're like making a deal. But I'm like watching, and I'm like, bro, like, he's making a deal. He's not like getting us out of this. He's like, yo, so we gonna chop this money up later or whatever. And I'm like, and that shit kind of rubbed me wrong. So I always kind of, that stood with me, and I never let go. But then there was Victor Mendez, I think his name was. He was the Cape Verdean cat.
Never heard of that cat.
Well, he had a different Expo. He was Expo.
Never heard.
Yeah, he was dope too. He was like an interesting cat because he had a great stage presence as a rapper.
Huh.
And
interesting.
But he and some of the other cats, I always had, and we're young, right? Like, one thing about New Mexico, man, is we're humble people, and almost to a fault. And that's something that I had to learn to overcome. Is like, we wear our fucking humility like a badge of honor,
right?
And it can be a hindrance. So all these bombastic type people and like arrogant people, like I didn't know how to handle them when I was younger. Now it's
right.
But at that time, like that was one of the things. Like I just. And to a certain extent in hip hop, that's like a common thing, right? Like, that level of arrogance and just bravado. So anyway, some of those cats, like I just didn't fuck with because of some of But that's
right.
You don't gotta get along with everybody. But the Jake was kind of a nucleus for like a lot of the hip hop cats because he was probably more in it than me. Like. I was still a college kid. Like I had my own. I was like a nucleus of my own in terms of like I had like 5 or 6 different groups that I hung out with, and and I would bounce between them, and they were all different. Like the little fucking prep kids, like the hood kids, because even at the university there were a bunch of kids that like they were from the hood, but they were there at the university, right? And so. I bounced around a lot, where Jake definitely stayed in that with just all the hip hop kids. Rocco, Rocco kind of bounced between worlds too, because again he was at Berkeley, and Berkeley had all those crazy musicians.
Yeah,
man.
right.
So he was, and we got somehow, at some point we started recording. And all the dudes that we was making music with, like, we're not hip hop heads, like you met some of them cats, I think, like Conquest and
Conquest. Hell yeah! Shout out Conquest. Where's he at now, yo?
I have no idea.
Shout out Conquest, yo.
Rock and him, I guess, it had like there's not a lot of love lost at this point. As far as
Rocco had a separation from a couple of cats. It is what it is. It is what it is.
And then. There was that cat, John Brown. Remember that? And I always loved it because
I don't know who that
is. I love history, right? And I have a pretty good basis in history. So, John Brown, I love the name. It was actually the kid's name, but it was like John Brown. Like that was the motherfucker that like Harper's Ferry, like, white dude that fucking died trying to free slaves and shit like that. Like,
right.
A a great story. So, but he was a white dude that was making, and he had like zero hip hop in him, but he was making hip hop beats.
Wow.
Like he was not the kid you would, but you know, I've seen plenty of those that like make fucking fire music.
Right,
you know?
right.
But anyway, so that was those were the cats we.
Well, look, you were in a hip hop collective called the HYPNOTIQS, which was with my cousin Rocco.
HYPNOTIQS.
Frequency. I believe that was his name in the HYPNOTIQS too, right?
Yep.
Besides his solo shit, you, Clayton, and Alamayu. Shout out Alamayu.
Did you ever meet Mayu?
Never.
Mayu was my boy. We still keep in touch.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Is he still out in Beantown?
Nah, man. He's in Florida, man.
Wow.
And he and I met at University of Arizona. And actually, what's hilarious is so many fucking stories, bro. There's so many things I could tell, but
I know we could be here all night, but
he was like a senior in college when I was a freshman. So we met in Arizona. I moved to Boston. He graduates. He moves to New Jersey. But we when we were in Arizona, bro, almost every weekend we were fucking freestyling. Like, you know, always freestyling. He and I, and there was another cat, Hendley. That dude Hendley was like, he was the dude that would be fucking quasars, the spaceship. But he was so fucking nice, though, dude. This dude, and he was a character in his own right. He was from fucking one of those like cities in Western Massachusetts. He was just a wild dude. But so Mayu moves to New Jersey. I'm in Boston. We kept in touch, and he would come up from time to time. And at some point, I introduced him to rock. And of course, Maya was born and raised in Jersey. Rock, Jersey, like the Jersey. Oh, fuck, dude. They just like instant connection, right?
Form like Voltron.
Yeah, 100%. And so at some point, we just hung out enough that we were like, yo, we all should record together. And we started writing songs, and you know, it wasn't professional grade anything. You already know, like you've heard.
I have it all,
yeah,
bro. I listened to that shit when I was in high school religiously.
I remember, like you like recited my lyrics to me. And
sounds and symbols all around is simple.
It gets deeper than that. We speak as in that. In fact,
sky's a metaphor, so instead of flaws, we got a better gauze to patch in surety.
Patch the surety. Yeah,
match the purity.
The sight seems to show. Ice cream and blower like dreams to know. Vivid pictures, the scope frigid ditches for double-digit riches. These wicked stitches. Yeah. Oh shit, dude! You gave me. I'm actually impressed. I remember that shit myself. But yeah, we just like we all hit it off, man. I mean, well, rocking him because Maya and I were already boys. But then we just started recording, and they actually ended up going to North Carolina and recording, but I couldn't do it. So they actually have songs that I'm not on.
Wow.
But you know, like.
The 9/11 song was powerful. Love that joint.
I forget how that one goes.
That's the one that has the sample. I forget the fucking. It's been a long time since I listened to that.
Shit, dude.
Damn.
I don't remember that one. The one I was
like. This is a case to tell the world. Remember that shit?
No, dude. Damn, it's crazy because I actually think I have a copy of the CD at my house.
Those bastards spill more red than 1,000 kegs of Killians. Remember Rocco?
Yeah. I would say Rocco had a great delivery, right?
He has a great voice in general. And definitely a great delivery. He had a knack for that stuff.
In retrospect, you know, like, I would have benefited like from hanging with him and like learning from his delivery.
Right.
And, you know, again, I had no musical training. It was just. Yeah,
you were generally monotone, but there was something charming about your stuff. I don't know. I always picked you out.
Well, I mean, it was short-lived for what it was worth. I mean, it's been, you know, we recorded like 3 songs, and then, you know, it's funny. Like I tell people, like I haven't played baseball since I graduated high school. I was a high school baseball player. Graduated, realized I wasn't going to college to play, wasn't going pro, so I didn't play baseball. College, I mean, I will say, like, I probably spit a freestyle in the last 10 years because it's just one of those fun things to do. But like, once I graduated college, I think maybe like my first year in New York, I kept writing a bit. But then at some point, I was just like, yeah, this is phase. It was a phase almost, right? And I abandoned it. And again, that's when I get to New York, and I'm uptown, fucking Washington Heights,
Dominicano,
con lo
Plátano, fuck it lounge, fuck it lounge.
Con lo dominicano. And it was after that, bro, I spent a solid 4 or 5 years, and a lot of just everything New York, bro. But one of my good boys was Panamanian. So I got down this rabbit hole fucking with Panamanian music, and the Panamanian music is dope because they're basically doing it's the precursor to reggaeton. Like people, you probably heard this story, but like Panama started reggaeton, not Puerto Rico. But
I don't know that.
Yeah, man. I mean, El General, you know, basically
my boy's Panamanian. He actually has he's a part of some collective. I'm a little drunk, so I can't remember the name, but he's a grower. Okay. They just went to Cannabis Cup and won a couple of awards. No. They just went to Cannabis Cup and won a couple of awards, bro, for their hash, for real. Shout out my boy Ron John Surf Shop, bro.
Ron John.
My man Ron John, bro. Fresh car.
Yeah, but Panamanians are fascinating, man. Like the history of Panama is like you know, they're desperately trying to find a way to shorten the trip instead of going all the way down to the south, you know, of Argentina or Chile. And so they cooked up this idea of the canal. But Panama at that time, it was actually part of Colombia, and it was sparsely populated. It didn't have, you know, the French tried to build the canal first, failed. The United States took it over. They needed workers. They needed English-speaking workers. So they go to the Caribbean and they fucking imported Jamaicans and other folks from the West Indies, brought them to build a canal. So you get all these folks from the West Indies in Panama, and they kept the music of the West Indies, right? So you had all the reggae and shit in Panama. It's at a certain point eventually,
right?
You know, when this was all happening, there wasn't reggae, but as the culture evolved, basically, you know, you had your first, like one of the things that's hilarious about a lot of like the West Indian Panamanians is they all have like Hispanic first names with like gringo last names, or like, you know, English sounding last names, and so you like my boy's name was Valeriano Small. Right. And anyway, that's, you know, the first generation, they probably all still spoke English. But by the second generation, which is getting you to probably when reggae is developing, they were more Spanish influenced. So then that's when you had El General and all these cats, and they're doing music that it's like reggae, but they were basically doing what Jamaicans do all the time, right? They do a rhythm, and you have 75 people get on that track. They were doing the same things, but in Spanish. And then it just leaped over to Puerto Rico. And of course, like Puerto Rico, you know, the argument is always like, oh, well, Puerto Rico's whiter. So, you know, they decided to, you know, push it there and push whiter. I don't know, whatever. But certainly Puerto Rico had the connection to America, to the U.S., I should say, and to more wealth. So it probably was an easier springboard.
Interesting.
But anyway, yeah, so I, you know, and again, I just got down all types of rabbit holes getting to being in New York. And so I kind of abandoned hip hop music and not that I abandoned it, but I wasn't ahead anymore. Like I wasn't.
Right.
And there's a lot of good shit I missed in that like 2003 to like 2012 era. You know, like MF Doom when he was like really doing some of that came to me late. I missed it in its prime. Like it was
A lot of us did.
So
It's all right though. There's nothing wrong with that.
it's facts.
So Rocco, as I've mentioned previously, he's put me onto a lot of music growing up. You know, because he was, you know, whatever. He's about almost 4 years ahead of me. The whole nine. He was always up on shit, always. And there's one time where, you know, now that I own the house that he grew up in, there was a section of the house which is now my entertainment room, which has all my video game systems set up, the whole nine. There was a computer. I've told this story before on the podcast, but I'll touch on it a little bit. He was away at college at the time, or it was either college or high school, whatever it was. He wasn't home that day, and I was there with my mother visiting, and his mom let me go on the computer, which is my aunt. So I go on the computer, and this is the days of Napster. Okay.
Oh yeah, bro.
So this was a very pivotal moment in my childhood, man, because I discovered a lot of music in one swoop. Oh, yeah. One clean swoop. The fact that she let me go on the computer and I saw there was a Napster on there, I knew what Napster was. I was like, shit, here it goes. Because I'm a big music guy. I dive into the computer. There was a 56 kbps modem. It was those days. Phone line, the whole shit. Dude, the phone line that he used for that computer is still stuck in the wall in my house, which is crazy. When I go there and I see it, I'm like, man, it just takes me back, right? So I go in there, I dive in, and I open this Napster, and it ruined my life because that was when I discovered Copyright in Jakai, the Modem Mouth, Widespread, which is one of the craziest joints ever. Aesop Rock Daylight, right? But there was one track in particular that changed my life. And it was when I discovered Atmosphere. It was the first time I heard the track God's Bathroom Floor.
Fucking love that shit.
Now I know that track specifically had a big impact on you and Rocco's life and the whole
100%.
The whole 9 yards. So God's Bathroom Floor is not only one of the greatest hip hop songs created in existence.
It's a dope fucking song, dude.
But it was one that you and my cousin were very fond of. So to you, what is the meaning behind that song? Yeah. And would you agree that song is not only timeless, but its message resonates more in present day than it did when it was first released?
I mean, it's funny because I think Rock and I probably had differing opinions on what it meant. But for me, I always felt like very confident. I was like, this is a dude fucking, slumped over, fucking needle in his arm.
Right.
And having a reckoning with God. And, that, first of all, I'll tell you, very personal to me. And frankly, to my state, like our state has been ravaged by heroin, now fentanyl. But the shit you're seeing in all these inner cities, like that was us very early on. There's a whole book about this. Some dude named Sam Quinones, New York Times writer. I'm blanking on the name of the book, but like it's crazy. I read his book and it's like all about the heroin epidemic and how the fucking pharmacy industry, fuck the pharmacy industry, was peddling us shit and got us all hooked, right? And anyway, so that song, particularly at that time, it was very fresh for me. Certain things happened in my life. So, I didn't have a doubt, right? But I just remember I think he had it on vinyl. I think.
Well, it came out on the Overcast EP, which came out on cassette and vinyl. So it was only available on that at the time.
But I definitely, first of all, it's funny you mentioned Napster. Like Napster was actually created by a Northeastern University grad. And I went wild with Napster, and it was the same deal. It was my sophomore year, my first year at Northeastern. I would go on my boy's computer and get as much as I could and record it to CDs so I could listen. And that was one of the songs on there, that God's Bathroom Floor. But I mean, that song, man, got so much burn. And like, it's crazy. Like I like Atmosphere, but like I'm not a diehard Atmosphere fan, but that song will forever. I mean, the sample, the horns, I mean, it's funny because in a lot of ways it has enough abstractness to it that it can mean lots of things for lots of different people, and that's why people interpret it differently. But like, there's so many dope lines like in there. It's like, I had a date with divinity, but she wouldn't let me fuck.
Right.
For me, the way I interpret that is that he was about to become a guy. He was about to die, but then she went. So he survived.
Got a touch by a hazy shade of God help me change. Caught a rush on the floor from the life in my veins.
And you actually can recite, like, as much as I've listened to that song, I don't think I could recite it well. But damn, dude, like, it's just it touched. It sparked certain emotions for sure. And I mean, I've always been like, I think everyone has their songs that like Purple, Nas, dude, I played the fuck out of Purple Nas. Like, I've heard it, like, I played it so many times, but like, there's just songs like that I just like, when Biggie was like, I let my tape pop, what did he say? I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Like, that was one of those versions. It was God's Bathroom Floor, Purple. I mean, gosh, there's over the years, there's just songs that I can't get enough of. But that was one of them. And I remember I can't remember where he lived in Boston, but this was in an era we were getting blunted like a motherfucker, right? And we would just sit there, like tripping out and like, run it back. What? Rewind that line right there and that type of shit. I mean, like, I kind of miss those days because I've become, in a lot of cases, like a very passive listener where, like, I'll put music on and I'm constantly listening to music, but I'm also doing shit. Like, I'll do the dishes, I'll fucking drive, I'll, read the newspaper. Like, back then, bro, it was all, like, I remember...
It was a different time, man. It's not the same anymore. It's not.
Well, so we were young and we were carefree and we didn't, like, we could spend time just fucking soaking up the music and thinking about it and dissecting it.
There wasn't as much, dude. There's too much available now. Well, that's the problem. It's overwhelming.
Well, Napster, bro. I remember, bro, I have so much music that I, like, I mean, it was the first, like, that was like hitting the lottery once you hit, because you had access to everything that you wanted, right?
It was.
But there was, this is one of those stories. I can't remember if Rocco was there, but definitely Jake and probably Amadeus and Wiz. We were at Jake's apartment. He lived in Mission Hill and in Boston. And what was the member of the Gravediggers that passed away? Poetic? Is that his name?
Maybe, I don't remember.
Dude. He had a song
Shout out Gravediggers.
He had a song called One, which was like, he basically was writing as he was dying. And that was like one of those songs I remember. I actually fucking flipped out on everyone. I was like, shut the fuck up. Y'all need to stop talking, because we were listening to the song and I was just tripping because it's I think it was Poetic. What the fuck is his name? It'll come to me. But it was with Last Emperor. Philly.
Shout out Secret Wars, Last Emperor. Wow.
I put my because my daughter loves all the Marvel movies, so I was like, let me put you on this song. So
I gotta put my wife onto Secret Wars.
Secret Wars is dope, dude. So anyway, it's the song is Last Emperor, and I can't remember his name, and it's called One. And I remember it was just one of those songs, same deal. Like, I just couldn't get enough of it. I kept putting it on repeat. In Jay's house, and they were talking this shit. I got so mad. I was like, "Y'all motherfuckers, I'm trying to listen to this song." Like, shut the fuck up. Because it was just, again, there was just, and at that time in my life, like, that's what we would do. We you would hear something dope and rewind and replay and
Right.
like, did you peep that? And then dissect and what is the, and you know, God's bathroom floor. There's just so many I can think of so many moments like that where we was just like in the zone, and that's how I became such good friends with Rocco, with Jake. One of my boys, Al's from, you know, he and I got a crazy story. We both transferred to Northeastern. At one point, we both were living outside the U.S. He ended up in New Mexico. Like, man, like I would say, like those college days, man, those were the glory days. Great friends, you know, great moments. And music was, you know, bro, pretty much all my dear friends, there's a musical connection, man. And hip hop being pretty central. Although, you know, like, that's actually one of the things I appreciate about all these cats too. Like, you know, Rock has a good variety of music he fucks with. Jake too. You know, like,
shout out Soper, great fucking variety. All these cats, sick, dude.
Soper and I actually, like, I really fuck with Soper heavy now because, like, you know, like I said, we do that album of the week, and like, I think Soper and I are like, we're the real curveballs in that group because I fuck with so much. Like, I love Brazilian music, man. Like,
yo, I gotta record with Soper. I think that would be a must. He's still on the East Coast, right?
He lives in L.A.
Oh my god.
Yeah, well, that's the other interesting thing. They all out in L.A. I'm the only one that's not in LA out of our little group. But the funny thing is they don't even hang out when they're out there. They're not linking. But he and I definitely, our musical tastes, like and not to say like you know, Rocco has, you know, but like I push a lot of Brazilian music, a lot of Spanish music, and then I've always been that way. I like gravitate towards the weird, the eccentric, you know. I mean, it's funny, you haven't even mentioned AC Alone. You know, that was my shit,
fire.
Dude. AC Alone was one of, like, the Guidelines used to be one of my fucking favorite songs, man.
Your group as a whole, let's keep it a buck, very unique in today's climate. I mean, I know a lot of stuff is like kind of meshing in this day and age, but the stuff that you guys are really appreciating, it's not common. You know, it's not. Even though, like I said, like a lot of the newer generation, a lot of these genres are meshing, and they're all listening. You know, and they're kind of coexisting together. And you know, people listen to house, listen to this, and it's different. It's not the fucking same as it was when we were consuming this music and the stuff that you guys share within your group chat or whatever it is. It's appreciated on a different, more cerebral level than it is what these kids are kind of meshing with, you know, in today's climate.
Well, it's funny because I feel like you discussed it on one of your, actually it might have been the podcast you did with Nick Wiz, you know, like, and you were saying, like, you know, whatever the kids are doing today, like that's what the hip hop is, right? Like, you know, I think we can't discount what's happening to these younger generations and what that will be in its own beautiful way, man. Like I really am, like, time, you know, I like to say, you know, time waits for no man.
Right.
And time just keeps marching on, man. Like, I tend to agree with you earlier. You said, like, the 90s was one of the best generations in music. I mean, if you ask someone who, you know, maybe their era was the 2000s with, like, 50 Cent and shit like that, that's going to be theirs, right? Or the 2010s or the 70s or whatever. I think that I'm pretty respectful of the fact that, like, look, like, I think that there's weird things happening in the world today, and we don't know how they are affecting us or affecting our kids. But I think that there's some beauty that emerges, and there's gonna be some ill shit that I'm confident that I'm actually looking forward to, like, whatever like my daughters like generate. Like, check this out. Like, I actually kind of think it's fascinating. My boy George, he's a Colombian kid. He's got 3 kids. He unfortunately his wife passed away. I think you knew about this, and she beautiful person.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Terrible, really terrible. And I think the kids and George, it's been hard for them. I mean, like, I definitely saw a little bit of depression in the kids for a period of time. But I'm seeing, like, the middle daughter, she, like, was very quiet for a while, and I was pretty worried about her. But I've seen her, like, she seems to be overcoming that. But one of the things I thought was real cool, I went up to their house the other day. They live in a tiny little apartment, classic New Yorker shit, fucking 4 people in a tiny little spot. But they got a record player, and she has the Sublime vinyl, the one with Pawn Shop and all that.
Straight heat.
And I was like, oh shit. Well, it's funny because there's people that hate on Sublime so hard, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like that, I fuck.
Sublime's ill.
Sublime's got some dope shit. But here's this younger generation where they're coming back to that, right?
They're picking up on the older stuff.
And look, like, she didn't get that from her pops. He wasn't listening to Sublime like that, and definitely not from her mom. But I guess where I'm going with this is, I'm like, all right, well, what is that? There's I'm sure a whole generation getting re-exposed to Sublime, but they're not gonna do Sublime, right? But it's gonna influence a bunch of kids
somehow,
and their musical
some way.
taste, and like, between all the hip hop, Drake, and all this shit that our kids are hearing, it's gonna create something new, and I hope dope as fuck. But historically, it always has. There's always been some new thing, and it's always dope. And I'm actually really excited because I haven't, like, we're kind of in a, like, this lengthy. I feel like we're
little funk. It's a little funk.
Well, we're stuck in hip hop, and we're, like, stuck in the era of hip hop where, like, I'm like, I don't really give a fuck about hip hop anymore. There's not really anything new or exciting coming out there. I'm excited for what
there
comes
is
after.
though, but
Well, no, I mean, but, like, on the micro, yes. Like, there's artists and things that are coming out that are dope. We talked about it. Fucking Billy Woods,
right.
Maghami. I know, I fuck with Maghami.
Dude, Monday night just dropped something with Evidence that produced the whole project. It's kind of dope, bro.
I don't know Monday night.
I'm gonna put you on later.
Okay. But, as a whole, hip hop is pretty uninteresting, right? But
I get it.
That's what's dominating music right now. I really want to see, like, okay, there was jazz, there was rock, there was hip hop. What is that? What is that next thing that's just gonna fucking take the world by storm and be such a?
We'll find out.
And I'm excited for it. Like,
me too.
And it's probably, what are we? Every generation, we're all terrible. We're all like, these fucking kids, and like we, I don't know. I'm.
You got to have an open mind, and you do, I do, but a lot of people don't.
Well, and I mean, it's natural. I mean, like, what would each successive generation be if we didn't have our parents objecting to our shit? Like, that's part of it too, right? Like, if the collective is embracing it, then it's probably not revolutionary enough. It's not,
right.
Like, it's got to be something that is fucking abrasive to everybody. Right. Like, actually, my daughter fucks with this shit called, like, she's got a name for it. It's something like, it's some sort of hardcore. It's like, it's kind of like video game beats, but like,
Yeet. You're talking about that shit like Yeet and stuff.
There's one of the artists she fucks with is called Machine Girl. Does that name ring a bell? I don't know who that is. And it's just like it's almost like aggressive as like death metal meets like techno music meets video game. Because she fucks with a lot of video game music. You and her would fucking probably go nuts just talking video games. She's a gamer, and she's absorbed all the music from these video games.
What is she playing?
Her favorite shit is called Undertale, Deltarune. Do you know about this?
No, interesting.
And it's fascinating because, and he's a Northeastern kid, bro. Like, that Northeastern University is a problem, man. But this guy, he created these video games, Undertale and then Deltarune, which if you notice, it's what do you call that? It's the same letters, just rearranged, Undertale, Deltarune. And he designed the video games. He did everything within the video games, and then he does the soundtracks for them. And so like this dude is caking because he's selling his video games, and my daughter loves his soundtracks. I bought her a record because I was like, I see how much she likes this and she fucks with his music. And it's funny because tomorrow's Father's Day. My friends, as I mentioned, we're gonna go watch Toy Story 5.
Fire.
And
Fire.
Personally, I don't give a fuck, right? I enjoyed a couple
Toy
of Toy
Story
Stories.
hard.
But yeah, but like I'm like, it's not like what I do, but I don't give a shit. Like I'm like for the collective, and I mentioned it to my daughter, and like she's like, oh, awesome, and she got all excited, you know, and she's kind of in that mode now where sometimes I talk to her and she's like, yeah, hey, what's going on? And you know, like very short, winded in her responses. And I mentioned Toy Story 5 and she got animated, right? And I always love that when like I'm like finding things at this age that she's in where like she engages a little bit more and opens up. And why does she's like, oh, so this dude's name's Toby Fox. Look him up, Toby Fox. He's the Undertale, Deltarune. Apparently, she's like, that's so funny because it was rumored that he's working on the Toy Story 5 and he's going to be, and she's gotten into this world. Like she must be like reading chats and, you know, like
100%
discussing
Reddit threads and all that.
Crazy, man. And I mean, we've been there, right? Like that was me, the source. Bro, the source
I
was
still am
so
there.
so influential. Like the way that hip hop culture and that magazine. I mean, look, dude, like you said, I'm fucking wearing this shirt right now. Like 30 some years later, still impacted. And I don't know, this is the shit that's influencing her, right? And I hope for the better. You said we always hope, right? But you think about that, like how many of our parents seen us like embrace hip hop music as kids? We're like, oh fuck, what's going on? Like,
right?
Do we need to worry? And you know, of course. You had a lot of these cats talking about fucking a lot of violence and drugs and shit like that. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is what's weird about it, it's cool to vicariously live through these people. As long as your child is able to separate that stuff and not act upon what they're hearing and just take it as an experience, to be able to understand their life, that they're speaking, they're the voice of the ghetto or whatever the case may be, and just to be able to listen to it, appreciate it, but not act upon it. If your child's able to do that, there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, you know what's crazy is like, think about how many of us, because again, for many of us, it was just music, right? Like that's all. Think about, you ever been at a party when they play "It Ain't No Fun" by Snoop Dogg?
I love that joint.
Oh, that's a fucking banger. But like, think about. I know lots of women that will recite that word for word with all the vulgarity and
it's terrible.
Exactly. And they're just there spitting, if corrupt give a fuck about a bitch, I'd always be broke. I'd never have no motherfucking endo to smoke. Like, and you know, like they're saying word for word all the
hoochie groupie. Yeah, bro.
But, and you're not, you know, again, you get an academic in there and they'll be like, well, that's the problem and it's misogyny. But women are listening to that and singing along and rapping to it and not, they're not taking it as the Bible. They're not, you know, like, oh, it's just fucking music. It's stupid.
It's entertainment.
It's ignorant, 100%. I mean, there's plenty of ways you could.
There's a time and a place for many of these things.
Well, you know, I always on that Scarface, the Diary album, he's got the song with Ice Cube, and the whole song is like, you know, it's about, you know, how there was a whole era there, right, where all the hip hop artists were being accused of being the bad influence,
right.
And, you know, like Scarface has his verse where he's like talking about how like Matt Dillon has a gun in a Western and is that influencing people to go shoot up places, right? And it was like, so why isn't it different for a hip hop artist talking?
Right.
And then the same thing with Ice Cube's, like what was the name of the song? The Hand of the Dead Body. It's really just a song about like, this, the way that the, hip hop industry at that point was being vilified as like a corrupting force. And I don't know, maybe in some ways it was, but like, come on, like before that, people were being corrupted and after, right? And that was sort of the argument they were making. And so, I don't know, I'm getting off on the side, but.
No, but it's truth. It's the truth of it all. You know what I mean? It's all about perception. It's all about, time periods and all that. It kind of gets, a little confusing at times, but it all relates to each other.
Everything in my mind somehow is connected. I just don't always make the connection.
Right. I guess the talent is in making the connection, right?
Well, amen, brother. Amen.
So you go to college in Boston, you make all these hip hop connect, blah, blah, blah. Then you go to NYC. That's where you make your next step.
Yes, sir.
And you spent years as a bilingual special education teacher.
Yes, sir.
Which, a job that to me seems extraordinarily challenging, from the outside looking in on many levels. So what are the greatest challenges that you've encountered doing such a deed, and how did those experiences shape the person and profession that you've become today, the professional that you've become today?
It's a good question. I will say that I think the biggest challenge was the adults, which is sad. And,
wow.
And it's probably
adults meaning the parents of the children?
No, the professionals, the so-called professionals in that world.
Wow.
And I stand on this that, like what is keeping our kids from being educated is the adults. And and in New Mexico, like I have this conversation, like we're like 50th in education. And one, you got people that will look you dead in the eye, and like I was just at a, this is the world I work in right now, where I go to these government hearings, and you got people who will say, "Well, it's not as bad as you think," right? And I'm like, look, it is, motherfuckers, and once y'all adults will stop bullshitting, then maybe our kids have some hope. But again, you got unions, you got people who like, it's just a job for them, right? Which I understand, and it's a hard job, but if you're failing the kids, move on, find something else, right? Which I did, because I wasn't the best teacher, but I will tell you, I had a brutal first year. Was teaching in Washington Heights in a middle school, teaching 7th grade special ed, and interestingly enough, fun fact, my first teaching job was a block and a half from where my daughter's mom grew up and where my daughter now grows up, same place.
Wow.
And I was just a block away. So I basically walked by my daughter's mom's house every single day on my way to work, not knowing her, right? And that school was lawless. And I was the first year, I wasn't trained to be a teacher, so I got the crash course and I was getting my master's. It was a disaster, man. And I was not equipped. And so, I guess I think I got like a bad review at the end of the year, and I was like, well, yeah, what the hell you expect? Like zero support. The kids were, first of all, special education, and I'm sure this is what's playing out all over the country, is special education classes are dumping grounds for kids with the emotional issues, the behavioral issues.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of them tend to, as a result, have learning issues. But I only over the years had, it was always a small handful that was just legitimately learning issues, developmentally delayed per se. The majority, it was just we can't handle this kid. They have emotional issues. special education, right? And so my second, third, and fourth years, I was teaching second and third grade special ed because it was a combined classroom. They call them self-contained, 12 students, one teacher, and then I had what were called paraprofessionals that were assigned to certain kids because I had a student at that time with cerebral palsy, so I think a couple, and then a student that, they called it MR, mentally retarded. Like that was the
MR, really?
MR, yeah. And he had Down syndrome. So, and that's the diversity of the kids you're teaching in the classroom, which is extremely difficult, man, because, they expect you to draw up a lesson plan, as they say, for every kid. And mind you, I'm teaching every subject. I always would say, that's fucking nuts. Think about this. I got to teach English, but they called it differentiation. So every kid, you're supposed to work out your lesson plan special to that kid. Wow. So for English, arguably, I was supposed to design it 12 different ways. And then in math, design it 12 different ways, whatever the day's lesson plan. It was, you do the math exponentially, it's insane. And it became overwhelming. Despite that, my second through fourth years were probably the best years I had. The kids were, just a bunch of sweet kids. And I saw actual improvement in a lot of these kids. But I couldn't deal with the adults, man. Like a lot of shit. Like, when they needed someone to, like, the school district would be like, well, someone's got to go to this special training, right? You got to get updated on the newest whatever. Well, they would send me because it was easier to, like, dispatch me and then, like, send all my kids to other classrooms instead of sending someone more appropriate for whatever the training was, right? And so, it causes a disruption to your day. Your kids all get scattered, and then I'm off at some training for doing God knows what, and like for what purpose, right? And I will say this: I have practically erased all these men. Like, I don't even remember all the shit that frustrated me now in retrospect. But I remember it was always about the adults. Like, like the kids were challenging. It wore me down. I was always exhausted. But then when you had to deal with the politics of the adults and like whatever it was, I can't even speak to it at this point because it's been so long and I just really erased it from my memory. But that was for me the deciding factor, and I was just like, this ain't for me. But it took me a long time to actually get away from the profession because, one, I did find that I started looking for other work. And it's funny, I went to one interview where like a guy just looked me in the eyes and he's like, so all you've ever done is teach? Like that was, and I'm like, yeah, but it said a lot without saying very much, right? He was saying like, one, he didn't value my teaching as work or, anything. And, like it didn't seem to him like it was bringing any value to whatever that job was.
Right.
That previous experience. And so it was really hard to get out of teaching. And that was kind of what got me back to New Mexico, frankly, is because I just had ends in New Mexico because of my pops, being in government that I just didn't have in New York. Like everything I'd done in New York was like me just finding my way from my different teachers. Like every job, and I will tell you, like, bro, like I can't tell you how many times, like, because I was bilingual and a special ed teacher, like places were desperate for me, a male bilingual special ed teacher. So
like the perfect recipe.
Well, and for a lot of the wrong reasons, right? Because they would be so desperate for somebody to have that role,
right?
In special ed. And I'll tell you what, like, it's like I deal with the devil. I'd get these jobs and then I'd immediately be like, oh, I see what, like they hired me instantly. No fucking way no wonder why, because, they're dropping me in some insane classroom or something. Like
Right.
my last year or second to last year, like I get hired, I didn't even have a workstation. I didn't have a assigned classroom. I was just bouncing from classroom to classroom. They didn't give me any materials.
Right.
I was teaching high school history, high school science, and they gave me zero materials. And they're just like, good luck. And then, of course, it fucking didn't end well. And I mean, at least I will say I had the wherewithal, and I suppose the ability to self-reflect enough to be like, this ain't it. This ain't for me, right? And thankfully, I don't miss teaching at all. I have the utmost respect for, those that, lend themselves to that profession and those that do it well. But look, man, the state of education in this country is shot.
Right.
Really, and even I think we're being infected with like the classes they're teaching a lot of bullshit, man. And I think that just the quality of the teachers, like anything else, when you need bodies, when you're just desperate for teachers, naturally you'll almost take anything. And you got a post, perfect, put you in there. And maybe I was an example of that. But look, man, I see there's folks teaching that can barely fucking speak the language. You teaching English and you can't speak English. That's not helping our kids, man. And same with math. Like you don't have I can't be a math teacher. My math sucks, right? Like, but there's countless instances of teachers teaching subjects that they are not themselves primed to be doing.
There's a lot of issues across many levels. It comes to quotas, 100%. Across just 100%. Qualification, and people that just are not willing to do the due diligence to become a great teacher, because being a teacher is not just being a teacher. There's a skill involved there. You have to be able to dumb down the material in a way that your subjects can understand. And to say that they're subjects, the truth of the matter is they all learn at different various levels.
Yep.
There's, to be a teacher is such a complex skill. It's not just teaching people. You have to be able to touch them and reach each individual in their own way, because they're all individuals and they're all custom made.
Yep.
So you have to be a really successful teacher, you have to really not only like the job, but be willing to put in the effort to really mold that individual that you're speaking to on an individual level to make them understand the message you're trying to convey 40 times, however many kids are in the class. Now, of course, you might be able to take away 7 of them in one swoop, but there's another 8 that might need individual attention. It's a tough task.
You're not going to reach it. I mean,
of course not.
And that's basically what education has become. Is like, let's be honest, it's a game of numbers, right? And you see it, like the graduation rates at high schools. I mean, like, I don't know what a stellar high school is doing, but maybe 80-90%, but most of them are 50-40%, right? Like, not everybody gonna make it, right? And that's unfortunate. And some of it is a function of look at the population of this country, of the world. It's just unwieldy, right?
Right.
And we don't have the means or the methods, the resources to provide for everybody, whether it's food, quality education, quality healthcare, and you're seeing that reflected. Like, we're like, to various degrees. Like, again, it's funny. Like, New Mexico compared to New York. Like, I think the lucky stars that my daughter is doing public school in New York City as opposed to New Mexico. But it's all relative. Like
Right.
she's still in a public school in the hood, but managed to make hay. But if I mean, it's just a game of numbers, man. We're not, any of your public schools. They're not getting everybody, and this is even when you have the classrooms with the most dedicated teachers.
Right.
I mean, typically what you see is your experienced, most effective teachers. They actually it's kind of like on the train, man. Like you get the cushier jobs, right? Where frankly, with your experience and like your abilities, you probably should be working with the toughest group of kids because they're the ones that need it most.
Right.
But of course, they don't want to because of the behavioral issues and all the other bullshit. So like, the system starts tilting even in that way.
Right.
And maybe, I tend to feel like that's okay. Like, hey, if you, like, one of the things I always would think to myself as being a teacher, like, I always remember there were always a few good kids in the classrooms that I was working in that were just constantly being undermined by, like you'd have disruptions from this kid over here. You'd have incident happening over here, and everybody suffers. And I was like, I wish there was just a space for these kids that really want to learn, or really want to be focused.
Right.
And you kind of have that. And you have charter schools, and then again, even in a tough high school or a tough school, you have a few classrooms that people get insulated. So unfortunately, that's the saving grace for a lot of folks, is that you find that, because again, like the average, like the classrooms I was working in, chaos, bro, chaos. And maybe it was me, maybe I was, again, that's why I'm not teaching, because I won't pretend that I was really effective at what I was doing. But I did see, like, it's like, man, like there's about 5 to 6 kids in a classroom of 30 that I was like, these kids, their parents are engaged and they really want to learn, and then everyone else is just lawless. And guess what happens? Yeah. It's everyone is being dragged down by that mass. And so those 5 or 6 are like, their whole existence is just trying to overcome that, which granted makes them stronger, makes them more resilient, makes them so.
During your teaching days in New York, I mean, I'm assuming that's when you met your baby mama.
Yes, sir.
And you had your wonderful daughter Sarai. I got a bunch of questions for you. So I want to know, what was that time period like for you, knowing you were about to become a father? And, how did that affect your career choices moving forward?
We didn't necessarily plan having a child, so there was nothing artful about that. And unfortunately, I'll be honest, like, I was moving back to New Mexico, and our relationship was likely just going to come to a natural end by virtue of me moving away. And then I got her pregnant, and she let me know she was pregnant. I was like, well,
so you were going to move away before she got pregnant?
Mm-hmm. I had already committed to taking a job. So things were very shotgun, and I will say, we talked about this probably before you started recording, but like, there's a lot of things that happened in 2012. That was the year. I think in 2011, my grandfather passed, or maybe in 2012, which, I love my grandfather. So that happened. My daughter's mom gets pregnant. I was going to move, and I did move back to New Mexico from New York. And then the plan was, and this all happened very shotgun, man. Like, you know, I think it might have been like March or late February, I find out she's pregnant. By April, she comes out to New Mexico with me. I'm moving to New Mexico. She moves out with me, and we have a civil marriage with her mom there. 2 months later, she goes back to New York. 2 months later, I'm going to go pick her up, and we're going to drive cross country, which we do. We have a baby shower. Rocco was there. A bunch of my friends were there. We drove cross country, and I think it was a 3-day trip. You know, it took us 3 days. There's various ways you can do that, but that was a relatively fast way to do it. And we literally just pulled in New Mexico. You're in West Texas, which is pretty bleak, pretty, it's dry, it's barren. And you get in New Mexico, which continues to be that way. And she got a phone call. Her mother had passed.
Holy
Her
shit.
Her dad was never in her life. So, you know, I talked to you about this offline, but like, this is why it's been really important to me to like retain some level of a nucleus, right? Because, you know, that was devastating. And look, man, I got a ton of respect for my daughter's mom. You know, she gave a home birth. And she gave a home birth without an epidural or anything, like straight up.
Completely natural.
Completely natural. And I respect the shit out of her.
What was that experience like?
It's crazy, man. I mean, she, like, literally, there's a home there in Albuquerque where I drive by all the time, and I point out to my daughter, I'm like, that's where you were born, right? And she came, I think, a couple weeks early, so we weren't necessarily prepared. We were planning to do a home birth. You know, we were working with a doula. Like, we were, you know, I'm like, again, I told you before, I'm a Christian Scientist by some of my upbringing. So there's not a lot of medicine. I didn't take a lot of medicine, and I'm distrustful of pharmacies, of, you know, the medical. Like,
right.
Our outcomes don't suggest that these are necessarily effective things. So we were in agreement on having a home birth, but she came early, and it was quick, man. Like, I think, well, I should say quick. That's the luxury of the man. You
yeah, the luxury of the man.
Yeah, and I'm aware of it. I own it. But I think there were about 2.5, 3 hours where she was like in pain, and I was talking to the doula, and she's like, okay, well, you know, this is probably natural. It's contractions or whatever. And I was like, are you sure? And I like hold the phone out, and she's like fucking screaming, and they're like, oh shit, we'll get up right over there. So they must have heard something that they were like, oh. So they drove over, and they got there, and like within 30 minutes, my daughter was out. And
wow,
it was beautiful. You know, like, I'd been doing all the reading and the literature. Like, I was really, like, I went from not thinking about having a child, not caring about having a child, to you know, going all in on parenthood. And so I had done a lot of reading in advance, and, you know, one of the things they talk about is the skin to skin. Did you do the skin to skin?
Right.
And I got the luxury that, and I'll say it's a luxury again, like, very, you know, she's not always aware of it, as you know. Like, my relationship with my daughter's mom is not great, but I have a huge amount of respect for her on so many levels. But, you know, she gives birth. I get to hold my daughter after they cut the umbilical cord for like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe longer, like maybe 2 hours.
That's important, man.
And I was just there, right, soaking it up, because then she has to pass the placenta and all this, and she couldn't, right? It took her a dumb long, and they basically were like, if you don't do it, we're going to have to take you to the hospital. And like, they had to like fucking use scare tactics, I think, to get her. But, you know, that was all, as I remember it, within 10 months of 2012. Wow. You know, my daughter was born in October. January of 2012, you know, I was planning to move back to New Mexico. Our relationship was probably gonna end, and
Wow, all at the same time, all this stuff was going on.
All that happened in a 10-month period, man. And, you know, my mom isn't really in my life. My dad's kind of, he's a good dad, but he's an aloof dad and an even more aloof grandfather.
Right.
And my, her name's Noemi, my daughter's mom. Noemi's mother obviously passed in 2012, and her father had never been in her life, right? And they did like establish contact again after like around 2016, 2017, if I remember correctly. But then he passed also. So we're in quite a vacuum as far as our and you know, like I've lost contact with my older sister. My older brother's passed. My little sister is
sorry, man.
No, I mean, listen, you heard me say before, like, this is life, man. So, you know, again, I can't say it enough. Like, I have a ton of respect for my daughter's mom. And you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, just probably me, I'm not easy to get along with. She's not necessarily easy to get along with. But I think, you know, we're not nearly as successful as I think either of us would like, but I think we've at various junctures tried to present a good version of ourselves for our daughter, for Sarai, so that, you know, I mean, she's well adjusted, so that she's, you know, she can have a successful life for herself. And know what was really important to me, man, is like I didn't get good models for relationships, for communication, for so many of these things. And I really have aspired to like provide better, you know, like I'll tell you one thing, man. I know I'm skipping all over the place, but 2020, I'm in New York. I was working on the train. February 12th, 2020, I got injured on the train. I get a month where they're like, well, you got to stay home, right? Fucking, you do the math, bro. That was like a month before COVID shuts the whole world down. And I got to spend all this time with my daughter that I wasn't spending because my job on the train sucked and the schedule sucked, I should say. And basically, going back to what you were asking about being a teacher, one of the things that's a blessing about a teacher is it taught me a lot about childhood development. So I like it made me a better dad because I knew all this stuff from from teaching kids and about you know, how they develop and what's important, vocabulary, reading, and all of these things. You know, my daughter is a great reader. She's got a great vocabulary. All that's the foundation. Obviously, I think some of it's familial, but some of it is from what I learned in the classroom. But in 2020, you know, I was like, hey, now you have to be a teacher to your kid because you're at home. The kids are doing teaching at home.
Homeschooling, yeah.
Homeschooling. And bro, it was the first time like I saw myself becoming like my mom or my dad, where I was losing my patience and getting to the point where I was gonna like hurt Sarai, you know, in the way that like had happened to me as a kid, like because
like emotionally.
No, like fucking smacking around, you know, like
like beating her,
losing patience, getting beat, right? And it fucking freaked me out because I was.
Well, dude, parenthood is hard, man. You know, me and my wife, we don't hit my son.
Yeah.
And we were trying to not do it at all.
Yeah.
I didn't get beat as a kid. My wife did.
Yeah.
I've gotten hit a couple times, but it's not even like worth mentioning because the percentage of like how long I've lived with how I got beat was like very minuscule. Yeah, but my wife got her ass beat.
Yeah.
You know, with like cables, with like, you know, talking plugs.
Yeah, bro.
Belts. You know, the Puerto Rican way.
Yeah, bro.
And I couldn't imagine doing that to my kid. So I understand what you're saying. Is like, but sometimes you get so frustrated where you want to do it, but then you think like, I'm an adult. Like, I'm way stronger than this little person.
Well, that absolutely was the sentiment. But again, that's unfortunately where, like, I mean, I don't think any parent fucking has kids with this intention to, like, one point beat the shit out of them or whatever.
Right.
But it happens because you lose dominion, you lose your cool, you don't respond, and you don't have the wherewithal to address this through some other means. And I saw that happening to me, and I said, fuck, like, no fucking way, no way. And I knew I was like, I'm going to be here for I don't know how long, having this responsibility to, like, the homeschool, right? And I reached out to my cousin Will from Boston, his mother, but actually to both their parents, because they're both, like, child doctors, and said, like, give me whatever reading material, help me
Right.
do better. And it made a huge difference, man. There was one book in particular, like, one of the things I know from like, the ass whippings I got from my mom was mostly just whatever, her pent up rage and frustration, and we were badass kids. But, like, from my dad, there was a little bit of that. But my dad also, I caught some whoopings from him and my little sister too, because, like, his expectations being what they were.
Right.
And our inability, like, trying to do math with him, bro. And I feel like I probably sent you those memes. Like, there's a lot of us that we went through that, where, like, we had those
Right.
parents that, like, why aren't you, and you catch an ass whooping, like, they fucking flip on you because you can't figure out what the, whatever the algebraic
Lack of patience. It's a lack of patience.
Yeah, man. And so, one of the things I will tell you, this is the fucking nugget, and I quote this all the time. This book that was suggested that I read, I can't remember the name, but it talked about how, like, look, man, like, our development, we're so often, as we're growing, you get praised when you do things by, oh, you're so smart. You're so smart.
Right.
And basically the book is arguing, like, look, well, the problem is what we do is when we praise kids with their achievements by saying they're smart, they associate their every accomplishment with their intelligence. And the problem is that you hit a wall as you age where, like, there's so many milestones that in a kid's development that's just going to happen anyway.
Right.
It's not you're smart. It's just, it was going to happen.
Right.
And then you get to the point in your development where then those milestones are farther between, and there's failures introduced, and significant failures, right? And the problem is, when the book sort of argued that, hey, when you reach that point where a kid has encountered failures but always been told how, if they can do something, they're smart, then all of a sudden, now what do? They avoid things that
that's interesting.
are challenging, or that they're at risk of failing, because if they fail, they must not be smart. And so, and I'm a poster child for this. Like, all the avoidance when you start, cheating in school and avoiding doing homework and things, is because shit got hard for you, right? And no one has ever given you the faculty to overcome that and, like, push through it, because, most of our parents are, like, praising you for doing well, but never saying, hey, well, you're going to fail. And, and so, long story short is, the book was like, look, what you need to focus on with your kid is attitude and effort. Do you believe in yourself? Did you have the right attitude? Did you go at it with the right attitude? And then effort. How hard did you try? Did you try your hardest?
Right.
Measure a kid by that and query them. Like, when you're with your kid, and bro, this is life, like the greatest life. And I learned from it too, because I realized, oh shit, you can
Right.
You can internalize that yourself and ask yourself that. But And literally, I do it with myself all the time. I'm like, damn, am I really trying my hardest? Did I really believe in myself? But that's what I would start asking my daughter. Like when things got tough, instead of me being like, why don't you get this? And you know, I'd be like, well, did you try your hardest? She'd be like, yes. Be like, all right, then that's all I ask for you. Did you believe in yourself? Did you think you could do it? If yes, if the answer is yes to those things, then I'm proud of you and good for you, right? But what eventually developed is sometimes I'd be like, did you try your hardest? No. And, you know, like, one, there's some self-ownership, right? And then one, again, what are you setting is this expectation that, like, one, the ownership is on that person. Like, the harder you work, the more you believe in yourself, you are going to succeed, right? But your success isn't measured by success, by the end, but by how much you believe in yourself and how hard you tried. That's the measure of success.
Right. And I think that's a great measure to go by.
It was life-changing.
100%.
Life-changing. And for me, as a parent even, like, I was like, and I'm telling you, man, like, I do that to myself sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm not really fucking trying my hardest right now. I'm not, you know,
self-pep talks.
100%, bro. 100%.
Those are major.
That, I mean, you know, again, what you were asking on this parenting thing, like that, you know, I went from not planning to be a parent to being a parent to loving it. And so many, you know, unfortunately, like, I only had about 4 good years under one roof with my daughter, you know, and then, you know, shit went off the rails with her mom. And we were supposed to move to New York together, but, like, it was a fiasco. And I've been sort of, you know, I haven't been full-time in her life since then, which fucking sucks, dude. It really sucks.
Right.
And it's a source of a lot of grief for me, man, because, like, dude, I fucking love my daughter. I really do. And it's probably the only love that I've known. I tell people that all the time. Like, I've never been in love.
Yeah, it's a different love. It's not something you could really kind of describe. It's fucking, you know, being a parent myself, it's like, you know, there's many moments where I sit there and I you know, my kid's watching TV, but I just look at him. I look at his eyes,
bro.
And I just watch him be him. And it's like, it's very bizarre.
Beautiful, innocent, you know, like, inquisitive.
It's that purity that, you know, one day is going to go away.
Yeah, because we corrupt them. We are.
It's not even we. It's just life.
Society.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and we're all a product of it ourselves. But,
right.
Like, you know, our kids do really start very beautiful and innocent. And God, you know, I miss those years, man. Like, there's a video of my daughter that I love watching where, like, we were up in Beacon, New York. I don't know if you've ever been to Beacon, but it's a cool little city.
It's a very artistic city.
Yeah.
It's magical. You know, you got Ron, what's his name? That one artist up there. He's a pop artist. He's Ron English. He's unbelievable. He lives up there. Beacon. Yeah, he's sick.
And you got Dia Beacon and the Storm King Art Center. There's definitely a lot of art. The Dia Beacon's pretty badass, by the way. Storm King is nice too. But we were, like, standing on the side of, and we were a distance, but there's, like, a kind of a rushing river right there. And I don't know why, man, but there's just this video. It just captures all the innocence of my daughter. And she was such a sweet little girl. She's a little tougher now, a little hardened. But she just says, "Be careful. You don't want to fall in there." And she and she, like, tenses up and all this. And, man, dude, I've been able to watch it on repeat. Like, just, like, it's just
that
beautiful. That purity and just sweet and you know, it's just like a kid, just in all of their glory, just like, you know, that was what she's thinking, right. and like the way it, like the emotion and like how it like filled her whole body.
It's real,
bro. 100%, man. Like and no fronts, right?
Right.
Like, it's just pure
It's raw.
childhood, sweet, and there was a care there too, right? Like,
Yeah.
somewhere in her head, it all made sense, and
Right.
she's like looking out for me, like it was, dude. I'm gonna have to see if I can pull up that video so you can appreciate it with me. But yeah, man.
Shortly after this time period that we're all talking about, you end up moving back to New Mexico and you become a lobbyist,
Yep.
right? What I want to know is, what does it actually mean to be a lobbyist? And what type of lobbying do you partake in exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think everyone sort of has this concept of a lobbyist that has negative connotations, and I suppose even I may fit that bill. I mean, you're effectively trying to influence the thinking of elected officials, right? You want them to see one way or the other. The one thing I will point out is that, like, listen, bro, we exist in a world now where everybody's a fucking lobbyist. There's lobbyists for everything. There's lobbyists pushing for more Planned Parenthood funding and access to abortions.
Good point.
Those are lobbyists. There's lobbyists for the oil and gas industry. There's lobbyists for educational products. There's lobbyists for everything. And frankly, in New Mexico right now, they're proliferating. I was talking to somebody about that. We have these legislative sessions every January, and we were just kind of tripping out. We were like, damn, does this feel like there's just more? Like, are they sprouting heads? Like, what the fuck is going on? And frankly, where there's money, there's going to be lobbyists, right? And I'm ambivalent about the existence of lobbyists. Like, it's sort of like, now that they exist, like, I mean, now that there's all these variations on them, like, hey, got to be in it to win it type of thing, right? Are they a good thing? Are they a destructive thing? I don't know. I mean, that's sort of in the eye of the beholder, and depending on what the issue is that one is advocating for, and then also like what the politics are, because like, bro, politics is some shit, man. It's brutal. It's ugly. It's frankly, it's not good for the people. You're seeing it at the national level. You see it, like, bro, there's so many things that are playing out in the political realm and in the lobbying world that zero benefit for the public, for you and I and everyone else. Education system being a good example. But I lobby for a state university, and basically my big thing is chasing after funding, trying to get, like this past session, our big push was we're trying to get a major stadium upgrade for football, and then fund a huge academic building, $100 million project, right? And it's sort of an interesting thing, like, why do we have to send out a lobbyist to secure this type of funding? Like, one is...
So it's almost like you're just here to persuade.
Yes. There's a lot to it, right? Like, my official title is more like government relations. And, it starts with building relationships with elected officials. Because the problem is, again, there's lobbyists are abundant right now. They're running all over our state capital, the DC. And so that's a lot of chatter and a lot of people approaching our elected officials. And at some point, like, they have to be able to, like, who do you trust? Who do you listen to? Who do you open the door for? And so building a good relationship where when you show up, they'll open the door, they'll let you sit down, they'll give you an ear, and arguably, like, it's a tough thing, man. Like, I work for a state university, public serving university. Like, to a certain degree, like, our door should be open to everybody because we're serving,
Right.
we're serving all these folks. But, again, like, I have my my nemesis is a powerful legislator in the state, and he's just shut us all out. He's pissed off at me. He's pissed off at all, and he just won't even make time for us. Right? That's fucked up. Like, bro, like, you're hurting kids if you won't make time for us. But I mean, this is the world. This is the world I'm in. I think that, like, there's various degrees. Like, I am not the type of lobbyist. There are lobbyists that fund campaigns, and think about that. Like, if you have the funding to, you throw $3,000 towards a legislator, like, arguably, like, you've got a little bit more sway with that person because you're helping to fund their campaign and keep them in a job, right? I don't do that. I do have the ability to, like, take a legislator out to dinner, buy some drinks, things of that nature. And, I would say they're both on the spectrum of, like, sort of influencing an individual. I'm not sure that either in and of itself is enough to, like, this notion of, like, buying people's votes and their actions and their doings. Neither of them in isolation does that, right? Like, but it's just a funky world. It's politics, and it's just another job. It exists.
Is this something you always wanted to get involved in? Because it's vastly different from anything you've done prior. I mean,
not even
you were involved in journalism for a little bit. We talked already prior that you were a teacher, a bilingual teacher at that. And then, you ended up being, shortly for a little period of time, you were, an MTA, train operator. And then now you're this, it's such a differing figure. A differing career position that you took. Is there some sort of common thread that you find within all these careers that connect them together? Or is this just something you just kind of fell into?
I mean, I think that I definitely just fell into it. And, in a way I was sort of steered this way. Like, my pops was desperate to get me back to New Mexico, and he worked in government. So, like, and he's of, I suppose, enough significant influence in the state that, like, to some degree, like, the first job I got when I got back, I always think, I'm like, were they just, like, offering this job to me because they were trying to, like, please my dad and, like,
Interesting.
Yeah, so, I mean, and there may be some validity to that. I don't know. And frankly, it's been mine to make it ever since. And I will tell you that I've really thrived since coming here, doing the train shit, and then going back because my work ethic, like, exploded. That's a whole other story. But this is not anywhere where I ever saw myself. And even now, I'm like, I don't know if this, I mean, bro, I joke a lot, like, the joke is, like, your knee pads, like, it's a lot of ass kissing, a lot of humiliating yourself, frankly, right? Like, you can basically be these folks' bitches, right? They kind of treat you as, like, a personal servant at certain times.
Right.
And, it's got its perks, the job, right? But it's not as glamorous as I think some people think, and it's certainly not a lot of fun to be people's doormat. But there are skills that I've developed over my lifetime, I think, that make me pretty good at it. I'm highly social. I'm good at articulating an idea, a message, and selling an idea. right? I mean, it's a bit of a salesman job. That's really what it is, right? Like, and the funny thing is, in many ways, you have the parallel in like the university, for example, has a private side with the foundation. Foundation goes and tries to raise money from donors. I'm like the equivalent of that person, but trying to raise money from legislators, from state taxpayer dollars. So, you know, I think if you really want to drill down to the core of what the work is, it's a sales job, right?
Yeah.
And I'm constantly selling my university and its virtues, its achievements, its vision, its people, its leaders, the things we do for students, all of those things, which in a way I really enjoy that, especially because, I mean, again, like New Mexico is my home. I have a complicated relationship with my state, but it's still my home. It's still my identity. It's still like, above all, I'm a New Mexican. Like, I don't really feel like I have a nationality. I don't have a sense of place and all these things, but I have New Mexico. And my university serves that state. We're in every corner of the state. We have this network, what you would call a land-grant university. So we have offices in every single county. We have research centers all over the state. And then we get students from all over the state. So I love that. Like, I love to be, like, I'm in some ways sort of the face, I'm the salesperson for this university serving the whole state. And so I get to work with people from all over the state. You know, I think I do a really good job of like staying above the politics and like, dude, like I hang out with fucking MAGA Republicans and the most progressive, you know.
Good Lord. God bless your heart.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's one of the things I think I do well is, I mean, one, I love people, and I genuinely love people. Like, I do. Like, and I find commonality with people. It's what I've done my whole life, right? Like, being a freaking vagabond and going, think about all the places I've been in my life, and everywhere I go, I find something, some bond with people, something to connect, and
You're finding that thread that you could, you know, find that commonality with that other individual.
Absolutely.
But that's a skill. That's a great thing, but is it genuine is another thing.
I will say it's an interesting question. I mean, one of the things I find is that like my work and my private life have sort of, you know, merged to a point where like sometimes like I'm like all the people I'm hanging out with are the people I'm working with, and I'm like, you know, and you're doing it in social settings, and I'm like, damn, like, and I will say absolutely, like I don't know, it's just I've always been an authentic person, and I'm always, you know, and
do you think that's healthy, combining the two though?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I'm not advocating for it, but it's just happened. It's sadly, I think I actually worry, you know, particularly because like, you know, my dear friends are either in LA, Jake, Rock, Sober, or here in New York. Like, you know, that's where all of my close friends are,
right?
Plus my daughter. Like what I have in New Mexico is my pops, my mom's, who I'm not necessarily in contact with, my little sister, and then these folks that I've more or less become friends with. There's other friends that outside work that like our relationship is not work. Like we became friends through other means in New Mexico, but my life is pretty much in New Mexico. It's become just it's all around my work, and even the
purely business.
Yep. And no, I'm not advocating for that. And I think it, like I said, there's aspects of this job that I know people that do a lifetime of it, and there's all the time, like I'm a public servant. I'm a public employee. I always wrestle with the idea, like, do I just like become like the contract lobbyists? Those dudes make bank, dude. Some of these motherfuckers make millions, and I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, do I go full bore and get rich off of it, or find another profession? Not that I there's enough, and again, it's only a fraction of what I do. I mean, I'm kind of an administrator too. Like, I'm in the sort of executive level within the university, and so I have to deal with fucking budgets, and the last week I was trying to help us navigate a MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the city to like fund something. Like, there's just there's a lot of different adventures that the job presents, so it's not all bad. But the lobbying part is interesting, man. Like, and it's not necessarily something that I feel. It's not the most noble profession. Let's put it that way. And it's not. I don't. You don't necessarily look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I love what I'm doing. I'm proud of it. But it's not. I don't think it's nearly as shameful as some people think. Like, it's not.
Right.
Depending, there's a lot of creeps and fucking scumbags working in this area, but it's not like the work itself is like innately scummy. There's plenty of virtue in it if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
Like the funny thing is, I've heard stories that the birth of the lobbyist came out of the Revolutionary War, supposedly, when some guy that felt that the revolutionary soldiers needed to be paid more went to Washington and was like making the case for why they needed more money. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's historical fact, not fiction, but feel free to look it up.
It's interesting though. It's I've never met anybody that was a lobbyist, and I can't say that I really have an opinion on it because it's kind of foreign to me. But just hearing a little bit, it's almost like it seems like it's a profession that you'll go as far as much as you're willing to let go of yourself, in a sense. If that makes sense.
To do the work?
Yeah, kind of. Not even to do the work, just it has a lot of, I don't want to say eating shit, but there's a lot of yourself that you have to let go to progress, it seems. You have to, I can't really verbalize what I'm trying to say.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's got like, I just watched Wall Street again recently. You ever seen that movie?
Fantastic.
It's a good flick. And, like, think about Gordon Gekko's character and, he's, this ultra capitalist and like people and relationships and all these things it's like kind of currency and like it's
right.
There's a lot, there's sort of an amorality to everything about that guy, right? You can totally have that in a lobbyist. There are versions of that, right? But I think, like anything else, there's ways to make it a upstanding profession. Same as like you could be a Wall Street trader,
right?
And do it for fair reasons and decent reasons, and just to make a living and hell, even get wealthy. I have that. I have that option, right? Like I could go full sleaze bag, and I'll never be that. It's just I don't have that capability to be a piece of shit. Like
well, you do have the capability, but it's if you want to fully go and exercise the capability. It's like you have the red button in front of you.
Well, but
technically,
but like my conscience weighs too heavily on me on everything I do, right? Like I have that moral compass, right? I really do. Like it's something that I'm blessed to have,
of course,
from, you know, family, from someone, you know, like there is something in me that really monitors me to a point where it's like I would never, you know, like I could never go full sleazebag. I could never become a corrupt fucking,
right.
You know, like, you know, I guess the moral compass is important, man. That is a regulating factor for some people, and some people don't have it. Some people have not, for whatever reason, been provided with that or developed it.
Right.
And so I mean, trust me, I'm like, dude, I see it all the time. There's a lot of corruption in my state, and a lot of people making like, look, we're an oil and gas state, dude. Like we're getting fucking money hand over fist right now because of oil and gas, and money is flowing every direction, and all these pots, and a lot of it is going to wasteful things, and even more of it is going to like, you know, what you call them, like preferential contracts and steering it. You know, it's rampant, and I'm seeing it, and I know it, and I'm like, and that's the one thing is I have a pretty privileged position. Like I've got good relationships with a lot of folks where like I get to sit there and just like hear the like the insider baseball, and I'm like, oh shit, like, you know, that's not something I necessarily wanted to know, but I could really weaponize that if I felt, you know.
Right.
And
let me ask you this. You brought up before about like you've had interactions with like super right-wing MAGA people, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't know where you politically stand personally. It's not really my concern, but how do you build relationships with people who may disagree with you politically?
Well, in my job and the university, frankly, is like should be apolitical. Like our job is to serve students in New Mexico, right? And
right.
You know, land grant universities tend to be a little bit more conservative, right? Because the land grant element to that, typically it's agriculture. Agriculture, you know, your farmers and ranchers who are more conservative by virtue, right? So that, you know, like I feel pretty strongly that, like, you know, if you're doing, particularly working for the university, if you're doing your job well, like I tell people all the time, you should know what my politics are. And so when it comes to other people's, you know, I have legislators putting shit in my ear all the time, right? And, you know, like, you mostly just absorb it, right? And maybe I give the semblance of agreeing or not, but it's...
So you almost have to be submissive.
Not even. I mean, it's just like, I almost feel like it's more like, in a way, sometimes you're just constantly like a blank slate. Like you're not, like, I'll have these conversations, but when I'm not agreeing, or if I'm agreeing, it's like marginally.
But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of decision, right? So that means you have to flop to one side no matter what.
Well,
and that's what's confusing to me about politics is there is no middle ground. It's impossible. There's either you're the right wing of the bird or the left wing of the bird.
Well, I think, first of all, I find myself politically in the wilderness as it is. Like, right. I do not identify with either of our parties. I think they both suck. They're both terrible.
No, I agree with you, but I feel like in your position, you have to make a choice.
Well, not necessarily, because again, like what am I typically working on? It's like, hey, can you fund? You know, we were trying to fund the Artificial Intelligence Institute, fund things for the football stadium. So it's it's not us like taking a policy stance for the most part. But there are some sticky issues. Like, universities now, they're all accused of being too woke. And I hear that constantly. And here's my thing. I think the way I manage this is that, again, it goes back to sort of a certain level of self-awareness. Like, I have it for myself, and I have it for, like, this university I work for. Like, yes, they have a lot of bullshit that that they've embraced and that they've peddled and that they're feeding to people and that they're espousing, and just acknowledging that and being like, you're absolutely right, and that's something we're working on. Like that's one way of navigating it is you you have to be open to see from other people's perspectives, which that's what I do. I won't necessarily agree with everything. I'll push back when appropriate. Like, I'll sit to those. I tell the Republicans to their face, I'm like, your party sucks right now. You know what your biggest problem is? You're in a Hispanic majority state, and y'all can't help but be racist.
Right.
I'm like, you're not. So I can draw a line when it feels appropriate, right? But like, again, that also comes from a level of trust where, like, frankly, let me be honest. You know who I'm much more fearful of sharing my opinion with is with Democrats, because they'll fucking clobber you. They take offense. They perceive you as an enemy. I'm more reluctant to disagree with a Democrat than a Republican right now. I'm gonna be honest, and I might actually ask you to edit this out of the podcast. But no, that's the sad part, is I think that they're much more intolerant of dissent, as much as what we seem to be seeing at the national level is like all the stupidity of the Republicans, who are definitely fucking up in their own right. So, both these parties are just a disaster, bro.
Two wings of the same bird, brother.
It's just, for me, whether it's social media, whether it's political parties, whether it's politicians, it's all fucking battle for hearts and minds, bro. They're all just trying to be in power and to dominate.
Right.
And I think, we're all just sort of we're in their orbit,
right?
Existing and to various degrees, and hoping for the best,
right? At this stage in your life, what personally keeps you motivated? Like, what drives you to get up every morning and continue to inspire, or what exhilarates you?
Yeah, my daughter, for sure. She's my North Star. She's the raison d'être, as they say, and I think that's a major factor. I think a bit of ego, right? Like the bit, like I want to be something, to make a name for myself, get money, have nice things, and then, again, I have a very complicated history with my state, but it's important to me. The state of New Mexico, like that, I care about they're my people, right? Like, and so I want better for our school systems, for the economy. Like, there's just so many problems in that state, and it's like, hey, if I'm, you know, and I wrestle with that all the time, man, because I'm like, did I just fucking uproot and dip back to the East Coast, be where my daughter is, like, you know, find my way. But it is the closest thing I have to a home, and as long as that's the case, it's like, I think I wake up wanting to see better and do, but you know, I do have somewhere buried in me from family, from teaching, a desire to still do good. It's what got me into teaching all those years back.
Right.
Like, you know, do something good for the world. So it's still a motivator. But I become, if you asked me 20 years ago, I was like, I'd be poor and save the world. Where now I'm like, nah, I want to get money. I want to provide for my daughter. I want to live in a nicer home and take nice vacations. So like I've become a little more selfish over the years.
As you should. Well, listen, man. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you, man.
It was great to learn about you and a lot that I never knew prior.
I was all over the map, bro. I was all over the map.
Nah, it's good because I got to learn a lot, you know, about you that I never knew before. So, you know, I appreciate you. We definitely got to run this back in the future. I appreciate you sharing your story with me. We could have talked for 40 more hours,
Amen,
but I
man.
had to cap it at some point. We can keep going all night.
What
You know
did
what I'm
we
saying?
go? What did we go? 3 hours? Fuck.
Over, brother. Over.
No way.
Almost over, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, man. It is nice, you know. This is like a long therapy session in some ways, man. So thank you for inviting me, and for, you know, it's good to have candid conversations, man.
Yeah, man. You know, first of all, I'm always here for you. Always.
appreciate you,
I'd
bro.
love to always talk to you. And dude, I never get to see you. This
know.
is a blessing, brother.
Somehow this was like 12 years in the making.
It worked. It worked out. So
Crazy.
thank you, brother. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too, brother.
I can't wait to share this with the world.
Hey.
Take care, brother.
Yo.